leave it to the professionals.
Blessed by Gandhi, blah, blah, blah.
Started off with a bit, now I got coin. I see where y'all going. Been poppin' since Web 1, hella hoes on Web 2. I was living a dream, now I'm on Web 3. And it is what it seems, topping the pyramid schemes, I'm telling you. I'll sell you a percentage on Nebula. Shout out to Vince, he'll set it up.
Surfing on the web and I'm shooting at 3. I've been goated when I got my G. I'm an alien boy from a different planet, yeah. So I got my drink, I'm riding in the 1920s Model T Ford. Call her Era Lord. Call me Levi, playing on the keys, boy. And I'm about to put my gloves on. If I said it, then I meant that. Yeah, I like that one, I'm about to get that. Crash that whip for the drumsticks, whiplash. I'm about to get them all. Are you with that? In a white boat, surrounded by blue. I want one, but I got a cop too. I wanna fly high in the sky, arms out wide, trying to soar from a bird's eye view. I'm on fire, Ricky, Bobby, cracking the pavement, Whitney, Bobby. I'm a Saki bomb, Hiroshima, Nagasaki. Bruce Wayne been a dog, and I keep it 101, cause I'm feeling kinda spotty. You sipping on some rock, and I'm sipping on octane. The only thing around my neck is the
Started off with a
blockchain.
bit, now I got coin. I see where y'all going. Been poppin' since Web 1, hella hoes on Web 2. I was living a dream, now I'm on Web 3. And it is what it seems, topping the pyramid schemes, I'm telling you. I'll sell you a percentage on Nebula. Shout out to Vince, he'll set it up.
NFT, Twitter, blockchain. Seeing with the ghosts and we ballin' like LeBron James. Crypto. We can make a trade, get the memo. The field's not falling for the FOMO. Listening to Coffee with Captain. You know we worldwide, they loco. I ain't never gonna stop rapping. Orlando, yeah, we working magic. We rocking Ethereum NFTs. I just went and caught me a half base. Man, I gotta shout out
Started
the
off with a
bit.
now I got coin. I see where y'all going. Been poppin' since Web 1, hella hoes on Web 2. I was living a dream, now I'm on Web 3. And it is what it seems, topping the pyramid schemes, I'm telling you. I'll sell you a percentage on Nebula. Shout out to Vince, he'll set it up.
Breaking the mood to choose one, but they got knowledge to move, son. I'm shocking in shades with my brother in suits. Yeah, them blues is coming. Even though it's hard to pick, eeny, mighty, mo, soda on the mix, no biting lips, it's time to go. Index number 1, no thumbs up, you gotta scroll. Looking at the ghost in studio, it's time to go. Had a helmet on by myself until I met a mask that wanted to have a face off. So I had to bring my chainsaw, full tank of gas in the ride with my brakes off. I'm A1, but a different kind of steak sauce.
GM, welcome to Coffee with Captain. Happy Monday, everyone. I'm Cap. This is Coffee with Captain 1177. Looking forward to getting into it today. Interesting weekend. And before we get into all the market, it's a big week. We've got IPO week. We've got Sailor maybe buying Bitcoin after he sold the 32. And fear and greed back into extreme fear. So it is going to be, it will remain volatile, but should be an interesting one nonetheless. Hope everyone had an awesome weekend. You know who I know had an awesome weekend is Mr. Mike Campbell. I pinned it up top, but pumped for Mike. We have been grail chasing here on Coffee with Captain every Friday, courtesy of BZ and our Coffee with Captain segment. And while we were grail hunting, we've yet to hit a big grail. We've had some nice solid scores. I think this is our first, and while it wasn't direct, Mike had a nice hit on like a $50 claw pull. It was like a $52 card or something. So slightly EV positive, but he took the swap and parlayed that into a second pull and hit a nice 1999 first edition Zapdos PSA 8 that had a swap offer for $1,250. So congrats, Mike. Well deserved. Pump for you, and shout out to the BZ team for supporting Coffee with Captain and making all of our dreams come true. Greatly appreciate it. I also, in other exciting news this weekend, let me actually, I'll drop a picture. Dor, is that your, man, I knew you had a pretty fire Good Vibes Club collection, but I'm impressed. GG's, congrats on that. Looking great. I have a nice one that features the Champion of Vibes in my collection now. I actually have two. I minted 2 of those last week, so I need to go collect some more. But GM to all of our GMers, appreciate y'all helping get the space warmed up. We are live here on X Audio, X Video, as well as YouTube and Abstract. All those shows are pinned up top in the Jumbotron. Appreciate everyone helping us getting warmed up with those likes, bookmarks, subscribes if you haven't already. If you're not subscribed to YouTube, what are you doing? please do it. Take 2 seconds, give us a solid, head over there, click that link up top and hit that sub button. I'm curious what Zane is so animated for this morning. But GM Zane, GM Osiris, Red Rad Reviews, Absolute Zero, Mr. Mike Campbell, who we were just talking about, Thomas, Zane, as we mentioned, Osiris, 6.9 is tomorrow. I may have to do something fun with the title there. Thomas giving Mike the big hit, or congrats on the big hit. And one of the most positive people in the space, the aspiring nobody, wishing everyone, all the beautiful people at GM. And also linked up top, I think, let me do a double check. I believe the reminder link for tomorrow's show. Yes, Tuesday's show is up top as well. You can go ahead and hit that reminder and get the algos warmed up for us a day in advance is also helpful. GM Teacher Katie over in the abstract streets, and big GM to all the Spurs fans, out there. I guess the Knicks fans, game 3 tonight. This is, I'm not making this up. It's, might be this week's proof of simulation. It'd be this month's proof of simulation if the Spurs actually come back and win. There's been 2 times in the last couple of decades where a team has come back from being down 2 games to none in the NBA Finals. One time was exactly 20 years ago. The other time was 10 years ago. And in both cases, so not only were they exactly a decade apart, in both cases, there was a Capricorn superstar that led those comebacks. And yes, Wemby is a Capricorn, I've been told. So they say history doesn't repeat, but it does rhyme. And I saw that. And I think something about the moons as well. And that was all I needed to hear. I went and opened up a small Cauchy bet on the Spurs with the odds to come back. I actually, it's a long shot, but I think it could be a profitable bet. Even if the Spurs win tonight, those odds change probably pretty significantly. Even Zane's calling it. Just like you can't fight astrology. You can't fight the moon. You can't fight the stars. And even Zane's never watched basketball before. He knows the Spurs are going to win. So if Zane's on board, it's hard to deny. Also, congrats to Zane. Let me go. Zane, do you have a link for? I saw there was pictures you posted in the War Room over the weekend, but don't know if there was a link for that World Talent show that went live yesterday. I can probably go track it down on YouTube. But if you got a drink, drop it in the chat. We'd love to give you some love on that. Zane helped produce a big World Talent show with iShow Speed. I said that was it's on Speed's YouTube channel. It's the latest live. So if you want to see some of Zane's latest work, I said it in the War Room. I'll say it here on the show. Like expert level challenge is find someone who has worked with more social media stars, behemoths, basically every major social media talent in the space with a large following. If you can think of them, Zane's probably worked with them. I found the links. I'll drop that in the chat. Go give our guy Zane some love. Not surprisingly, but X search, not even search, X when I'm trying to tag someone just fails me time and time again. So it's Zane. Go give our guy some love. He doesn't even show up when I'm trying to tag him. So I don't know. I'm not gonna vent about X search and X tagging and failing to recognize who I'm actually looking for. It's the World Talent Show on iShow Speed, and there we go, pinned up top. If you want to go check that out after the show. Per the title, we'll get into that here in a bit. Bored Ape Yacht Club saving NFTs, not a joke. It's not an engagement farm. It's very real. Shout out to the club and shout out to thanks Sonko. We were correct. Right as the show started, we got breaking news here this morning. I'm going to hold on that. I mean, this is willpower here. I'm going to hold on talking about the breaking news, keep you all on the cliffhanger, but we did just get breaking news 8:01. So they're going for the coffee with Captain Pump this morning, and it probably will work. You know what? I'm not saying I don't even know if I said this on the show. I thought it. I don't know if I said it out loud. If I did, I will. I might go back and listen to the shows last week just to take a victory lap if I actually did say it. But I did say one. Well, I thought. I don't know if I said it for a fact, but I absolutely thought in my head. You have to trust me, bro, on this one. I had the actual conscious thought that wouldn't it be funny? Wouldn't it be entertaining? And often the most likely outcome is the most entertaining one. That's not how it goes, but you know what I mean. Is if Saylor sold 32 Bitcoin just to kind of like pump fake the space. 32 is a rounding error. Like it is. It's not a. You're talking about someone who buys billions of dollars at a time, and he goes out and sells 32 Bitcoin. It just didn't make any sense. Like if he needed the liquidity, if he needed the cash, he would have sold more like 3,200 Bitcoin or 32,000 Bitcoin. He's not like 32 just seemed like a test, a pump. This summer, and so it was like a test. How's the market going to react? But my conscious thought was, while we make fun of him for often buying the local tops, sell 32 Bitcoin, the space freaks out, price crashes, and then he follows up with a big buy, and that turns out looks like exactly what happened. So we're going to dive into that here in a minute. I'll just say before we get into all the details, he bought far more than the 32 he sold and was able to buy it at a discount because of and it wasn't just I'm sure there's a lot of other variables here. It's not wasn't just the market freaking out or crashing because he sold 32 Bitcoin. I think that probably added a little bit of unconfidence. Is that even a word? Is unconfidence a word? Lack of confidence? Is unconfidence a word? I don't think it is. I'm going to ask. That's where I need Steve to come over the top and laugh at me for making up a word. Is unconfident a word? Yes, unconfident technically is a valid word, recognized by dictionaries like Merriam-Webster's in the Cambridge Dictionary. Means lacking in confidence. Okay, well, eat it, Steve. Suck it. I'm sure. I'm kidding. He probably would have known that. So before we get into serious stuff like Saylor's big Bitcoin buy, how the market's going to respond, it quickly goes green this morning. So we got the coffee with Captain Pump and the Michael Saylor pump this morning. You know what else is pumping? Rhubarb pie. I shared it on my X account over the weekend. My first attempt rhubarb pie, kind of a family classic. My grandma on my dad or stepdad side rather, and they grew rhubarb. So they had, if you're not familiar with rhubarb, it looks kind of like celery would be the best way to describe it. It looks like celery, but instead of just green, it's more red. It's like red and green, where celery is different shade of green, but it's mostly red. And it grows big stalks. And anyways, they grew rhubarb, and they would I don't know what else they made with it. They made like rhubarb jam, like jelly, rhubarb jam, and then rhubarb pies. I just remember being really good. It is, if you like sour stuff, it's a nice, it's not like overpowering sour, but it's a good, it's just a very unique flavor, very unique taste for a pie. And I always enjoyed it as a kid. It would be something like Thanksgiving. I don't know if there's any particular holiday, or they would just make it. Probably it would make sense when it was fresh. When does rhubarb harvest in West Virginia? April through June. So actually, would make sense why I found it at the not farmers market. We have a supermarket chain, small chain here called Detweiler's Farm Market. So it's like a farmer's market. They got fresh produce, fresh, beef and fish. And so it's become my preferred, nothing wrong with Publix, but it's more local feel and vibes. I like supporting smaller, family owned businesses, but it's fresh. It's harvest lasts about 8 to 10 weeks from April through June. So it makes sense while I saw it Mayhem said rhubarb grows everywhere here. That's interesting. I would not have expected it to grow. Actually, I guess West Virginia is not the tropics by any means. So yeah, I guess it would make sense. But I wouldn't have guessed that rhubarb is a big thing in Canada. Law the Saul is asking the question of the day. Chat, here is the trivia question of the day: is do you know the difference between jam and jelly? First person to answer the difference between jam and jelly successfully will be in consideration for Coffee with Captain this Friday. Drop your answers in any of the chats. We'll take it acceptable in YouTube, Spaces Audio, X Audio, or X Video, and in Abstract. What is the difference between jam and jelly? Proper definition between the difference between jam and jelly. This is Law the Saul with these. Actually, now that I say this, has Law, Payne, if you're out there, has Law been a Coffee with Captain participant yet? If not, we're going to go ahead and add him into the consideration for this week's Coffee with Captain. Overdue if he's not had a claw pull yet, but he gets the assist on this and will be in consideration for this week's Coffee with Captain, as well as whoever gets the correct answer first. I actually don't know the difference between jam and jelly. I think I do, but I don't. It would just be a guess. I'm not certain of the proper definition. My first attempt at rhubarb pie. Anyways, I'm not a baker, but I saw the rhubarb and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna throw it back. I'm gonna attempt to make rhubarb. It's actually ridiculously easy. After having done it, it got me thinking like I could probably bake more. I'm not like my brother is a very talented chef. My girlfriend, more than just arepas and Venezuelan dishes, but I work the grill, and that's about the extent of the cooking I do. But after having successfully baked a rhubarb pie, it got me thinking like I could bake a little more, bake some healthy stuff. I might. No promises. We're not starting cooking with Cap, but now I'm wondering if Law of the Saw is just setting up a joke the whole time and he may not even know the question himself. Mayhem knows the answer because he's made both for work, and Diablo says Sailor buy doesn't make up for his sale. You need to buy more because Bitcoin is down more since the news broke. I think it more than makes up for the net. He sold 32. He bought a lot more than 32. Even whether you count units or US dollar value. Unconfident isn't unconfidence. Okay, so you're probably right. Unconfident might be a word. I don't know if unconfident is a word. I would think unconfidence is a word. Unconfidence definitely a word. Unconfidence is maybe not a word. Yep. I think you're right. So unconfident, well, unconfident is a word, unconfidence is not. Good check. Thank you, Diablito, for filling in Steve's shoes this morning and checking me on my improper English. Osiris says his father was a farm boy in West Virginia and talks about it one day. I'll try it, but yeah. It is sour. I don't know any other way to describe it, but it's not overpowering. It's not like, I mean, if you can eat a Sour Patch Kid, you could eat rhubarb pie. I don't think it's, I mean, I like it. I don't think it's not like one that you would, it's just a, this is the first guess we have. It's tart is a better word than sour. Thank you. Thank you, Mayhem. Yes, it's tart would be a much better way to describe it than sour. But if you add, you cook it with a little bit of sugar and some other very simple ingredients, and it's a nice. I think it's a nice hit. So my first attempt probably won't be my last, but we also now have Hizzy talking about bourbon chocolate pecan pie. I'm not a pecan pie fan. I don't know why, but I've never really been into pecan pie. Can't. Maybe as I'm an adult now, my palate has changed. I should maybe give it another go. But GML, late GMs are better than no GMs. GM has, so Cyrus says GM has bits of fruit and jelly doesn't. Brickadall says the same. GM has chunks, jelly has juice. GM is a preserve, jelly is gelatin-based dessert for NY Blinky. Any other, and I won't, you got to get in the war room to see the joke that Law the Saw was setting up with this question. We're going for 500 subs on YouTube and doing our best not to get nerfed over there. Just need a little egg wash brushed on the shell to give the pie a little shine and a little sugar sprinkle on top. Great start. Dort, professional baker, because this is actually, while the family recipe that my mom sent me, actually that's what I should share, because these recipe cards from like my grandma, it's like, what even is this? I'm going to share the recipe card in the chat because the handwriting itself is difficult to read, but there's like no instructions. It's just like 5 cups rhubarb, 1 2/3 cups sugar, 4 tablespoons or teaspoons, I don't know, guess, of quick tapioca. And I'm like, does that say tapioca? And it's like, yeah, but you should sub it for cornstarch. I'm like, oh, so it's actually not this recipe, but rather something different. And anyways, so I appreciated her sharing the family recipe, but I worked with ChatGPT on it. And that's the one thing I didn't do was this fancy finishing touches. Exactly as Dort describes, a little egg wash brushed on the shell and a little sugar sprinkled on top. That's exactly what ChatGPT told me to do, and I chose not to do it. So yeah, Dort, the professional baker's made a few apple pies in his day. Here is and I also did not use the tapioca. I subbed the tapioca for cornstarch. I added a little vanilla, added a little lemon juice, and a little bit of salt, which the family recipe did not call for. Yeah, can you read this? Where'd it go? I just saved it, but I lost it already. You know, one kind of gripe I have with iPhotos is if you have a photo saved, and I just saved it again, but apparently I'd saved it the last time. I didn't realize it. And then I got to go back all the way back through my library to find it. So now my hack, tell me if there's a better way. My hack is just going and screenshotting it. That way it's first in my camera roll and you can easily find it. We will get off of rhubarb pie and jam and jelly here in a second, but I had to finish the thought. So there is the recipe along with pie, and I did acknowledge when I took the picture that my finishing touches needed a little bit of work. Mel making meatballs and pasta for breakfast sounds like she's inspired by Steve. Famously a fan of dinner for breakfast, but yeah, I did acknowledge that my crust presentation could have used a little work, but flavor wise, it was great. It was had a piece, and then it was so good I went back for a second piece yesterday. There is, again, you can't really see the rhubarb, but that was my first attempt at rhubarb. And yeah, to Dort's point, could have used a little egg wash and a little bit of sugar to make it look a little fancy. Here is the recipe I was referencing. Rhubarb pie, serve 6, 1 double crust, 5 cups of cut rhubarb. It says rhubarb. You just got to trust me on this. I'm not making fun of my grandma's handwriting, but I am. Both grandmas wrote like this, by the way. So from my grandma on my dad or stepdad's side, as well as my grandma on my mom's side, both their recipes, you can't really read half their stuff. 1 and 2 cup of sugar. I put less than a cup of sugar actually, and it's still a lot. And also that was my other realization of making this was, holy moly, there's a lot of sugar in pies. So I'm not a fan of added sugar at all. I may try to make one with, I don't know if you could make it without sugar, but I will. I did like maybe 3/4 of a cup. I'm going to try to do maybe like a half a cup or less and see if that does the job. Anyways, hope everyone enjoyed my cooking with Cap segment this morning. We're not going to be bringing back. Interesting. I did not know this. A big T stands for tablespoon. A little t stands for teaspoon. So there you go. Today I learned. Thanks, Hizzy. Hizzy, done some baking in his day. Rhubarb, very tart. Rhubarb apple or rhubarb strawberry is good jam or jelly. Helps with tart. Jelly has higher pectin content and strained of chunks. And that's all I'm going to read. The leaves are poisonous. What, rhubarb leaves? Interesting. Did not know this. And toxic to dogs. Well, not giving Duke any rhubarb pie to begin with, but good to know. And yeah, well played, Law of the Saw. You got everyone talking. Law of the Saw made a D's nuts joke, and but yet he inspired a whole segment and got himself as a finalist for Coffee with Captain as a result. So well played this morning. Speaking of jam, Floor Protopol hack got quite a few jammed up yesterday. We are like full on dad jokes and D's nuts jokes this morning. Just make a favorite album on your phone. The last one saved should be on top or bottom. I do use favorites quite often. So I do this. I'll favorite it so it pops up in my favorites. I don't like. Actually, one of the news items we might get into today, kind of evergreen. So probably won't do a deep dive. We'll probably actually wait until it gets launched. But Apple Photo, iPhoto, I feel like for as intuitive as Apple is, and as good as their phone, stuff just works. iPhoto kind of sucks. It's not very intuitive, and I got to do workarounds like screenshot something to show it on top of my library or favorite it, and then go to the favorite album. The problem is, like, what I just did is I went and saved that rhubarb pie recipe from a text message from my mom, and then so I can't even. Then I open up my library and it's not there. It's like whenever the date I originally saved it, and I had to scan through hundreds of photos to go find it, to even favorite it, so it pops up first. I don't feel like we should have to be doing workarounds for simple stuff in iPhoto. But in the news relative to Apple is they just announced they have their WWDC, their conference, and they announced that Siri is getting relaunched, going to be rebuilt on Google Gemini, but you'll be able to you're not forced to use Gemini for Apple Siri. You'll be able to choose between Claude, ChatGPT, or Gemini. They just dropped the probably the most significant AI announcement in their history, as now Siri has been completely rebuilt on a custom 1.2 trillion parameter Google Gemini model, licensed at approximately $1 billion per year, replacing Apple's own foundational model. More significantly, Apple Intelligence now features an extension system that lets users choose between ChatGPT, Gemini, and Anthropic's Claude as their AI model for Apple Intelligence features. This is unprecedented. Apple's effectively becoming a neutral AI model distribution platform, putting Claude, ChatGPT, and Gemini in front of 1.5 billion active iPhone users simultaneously. For Anthropic specifically, this distribution deal that no enterprise contract can replicate. So you got Apple choosing Gemini as the Siri's foundation rather than building its own. For a while, I thought Apple failing to invest in AI and falling behind was a big miss. And then even prior to this, we knew this was kind of telegraphed. We knew this was coming. I thought it might actually be a very savvy move. So instead of them spending billions and hundreds of billions of dollars building out a foundational model, they just sat back and let Anthropic and OpenAI and Google and XAI all battle and spend the collectively trillions of dollars, while they just let them fire shots at each other and are just going to license pay $1 billion a year, which $1 billion sounds like a lot of money, but it's a drop in the bucket compared to what the aforementioned have spent on building out these foundational models. So again, the extension gives users, you can choose between the three. 1.5 billion iPhone users, pretty big deal. Very distribution is key there. And I think while we have IPO season beginning, Thursday is the SpaceX IPO. Anthropic's IPO, they're targeting an IPO just under $1 trillion valuation. Will be coming soon as well, and pretty big distribution deal here for their trajectory heading into that IPO. Apple paying Google about $1 billion a year to power Siri, which is ironic given that Google pays Apple $20 billion a year to be the default search engine. Excuse me. So, yeah, just wild. Again, I think $1 billion a year for this is probably a deal, all things considered. And for crypto and Web3, Apple controlling the AI model layer on 1.5 billion devices. Does this accelerate, or does this threaten decentralized AI infrastructure plays like Near, Tau, BitTensor, all of which we've talked about a little bit here briefly? I saw Near had an all-time high in terms of their oh geez, I'm drawing a blank. I can't want to think what they call it. Oh, this is bad. Their intense, near intense. Sorry, Joey. Sorry we lost you. If you're welcome to get in here if you wanted to join the conversation, but was going to go to you next. Sorry we didn't get there sooner. He might have had an 8:30 meeting he had to jump into. But if you jump back up, we'll get to you as soon as you join us on stage. Yeah, near intense. So here's the actually I'm going to hold headline topic. We're going to talk a little bit about Sailor's Buy, and then we will get into the headline topic of the day. Again, shout out to Zonko, who I would have missed this because we had just started the show, and he dropped the news at 8:01 a.m. Regarding his buy. But Sailor has Strategy rather has acquired 1,550 Bitcoin for $101 million to increase its Bitcoin reserves to 845,256. Again, 845,256 is the amount of Bitcoin they hold. Why anyone even reacted over selling 32 is still, it makes no, like, you could say, oh, he needs the money. He needed to make it to make the dividend payments. He might need cash. Again, 32 Bitcoin is again, it's a drop in the bucket. It's not going to do anything. So felt it was some sort of test, and whether he did it with intent to thinking that the price would fall and he could buy this 1,500 at a discount or not, who knows? But yeah, they just increased their USD reserve by 100 million to 1 billion. So I'm wondering how they did that. That'll take a double tap. So they bought 1,550 Bitcoin for 100 million, while simultaneously increasing their reserves from 100 million to 1 billion. So that should help with any debt service, their dividend obligations. Yeah, I mean, it links to the 8K, their form, but I'm not going to go into all that reading. But yeah, the high level story is he's not a net seller, rather a net buyer, and selling 32 was some sort of a test, or looks like a possible OTC sale with the 32 Bitcoin to Strive. It was a 2 million. Strive acquired 32 Bitcoin for 2 million at an average cost of 63,000 per Bitcoin. Can you explain that to me, Zonka? What would that mean? Why would it matter if Strive was the one who bought it? Yeah, help me understand that a little more. Why would that be meaningful? But either way, it is as I expected. The 32 was a nothing burger. Selling 32 Bitcoin was a nothing burger, and I think that checks out. Strive is by the way Vivek Ramaswamy. Am I saying that right? Vivek Ramaswamy's org or entity. Anyways. I'll wait and see if there's any other thoughts in the chat on strategy and Sailor's buys there. If not, no worries. I do want to get into 40 Block Hub saving NFTs. Before we do that, though, let's actually, this would be a good segue into conversation. Top KOL, yeah. There's one that's a little bit larger that seems to be moving, it can move any markets, but let's do this. Let's do a quick market update. We'll talk about, it's Green Day, so it's better, even though Fear and Greed, the chart I'm looking at is 15. I saw another Fear and Greed chart that was at 8, single digits, but either way, still extreme fear, and doesn't feel great, but it doesn't, as bad as things were, it feels like sentiment maybe bounced a little bit. At least my feelings. It doesn't seem like my timeline, my algo doesn't seem nearly as. It doesn't seem as if it is extreme fear. I'll just say that. I know it's not great, and macro is still. I'm not a war expert, not a geopolitical expert. Full disclaimer there, but the Iran blocked another straight, I guess. So now it's full closure of a second straight. Probably not good. Diablito thinks selling was just testing the water. The next sale will be much bigger. Yeah, maybe. He just bought 1,500. So he just selling $2 million worth for a multi-billion-dollar company. I mean, they just bought 100 million on this buy. They sold 1/50th of that. It's such a small. Wow, NFT Drew coming over the top, showing our guy Hans up a little bit, and Be Epic, I kid. Big $690 tip for the. He says it's directly for the rhubarb recipe. You're welcome. No, thank you very much. In all seriousness, appreciate it. Katie adds, jam is chunky, jelly is smooth. That's my understanding as well. May not be the exact proper, but yeah, my understanding is jam has chunks and jelly is smooth. That's probably exactly how I would describe it, actually. May vary. Definition may vary slightly depending on where you're from or what region you are from. All that said, let's get into this daily market update. We'll talk tokens, and then we will get into NFTs and some interesting stuff there. It'll set up our next topic. But a couple beyond the apes and pudges of the world, once again, some of these new mints continuing to move up and showing real signs of life in the NFT minting streets. Yeah, I do agree. It's a very interesting week with how money is going to flow relative to these new IPOs. While on one hand, you could see a lot of retail FOMOing into some things like SpaceX. On the other hand, you've got literally not just millionaires, but in a few cases of SpaceX, like a handful of billionaires being created, one of which has been buying CryptoPunks for a while now, and they're about to come into about $1 billion of financial windfall. So could get interesting. I think I'm not saying like, oh, everyone's selling SpaceX is going to rotate into crypto and NFTs, but with NFTs at least, it doesn't take a whole lot to start driving some serious momentum and movement in terms of price action. This is our daily market update on Coffee with Captain. We'll be right back.
Coffee brewing. Yeah, the markets in play, charts on the screen. What the numbers gonna say? We got offer in the cup every single day. Coffee with Captain, market update on the way.
We're going to start with tokens today, looking at our majors. One that is still a major, but maybe not for much longer, is Cardano. I've got to scroll all the way down to 15th. It wasn't that long ago. It was a top 10 token. It actually is up 2% on the day, but down 27% on the week. $6 billion market cap. This is following, what's his name? Hawkinson basically taking a break. He's taking some time off, and the future does not look so bright over there. Anyways, Bitcoin up 2% on the day, 63,360. Still down 12% on the week. ETH up 4% on the day, still down 15% on the week, but up to 1683. That sounds a lot better than 1500. I got to say. BNB up 2%, XRP up 3%, Solana up 4%, Tron flat, Hyperliquid up 7% on the day, back up to $62. Still down 16% on the week, but really nice bounce there. Doge up 3%, Leo up 2% flat. Zcash got a little bit of bounce after its sell-off last week following the discovered exploit. Still down 22% on the week, but it is up almost 5% on the day. Stellar down 1%. Canton down 7%. I wonder what led to the Canton sell-off. Monero up 3%. Chainlink up 3%. And Ton up 3% as well. World Liberty Fi is flat. That's most of our notable tokens. We might touch on a few others here in a bit, but heading over to NFT land, big volume day. 255 ETH in volume on Apes, 200 ETH volume on Pudgies. Apes down 1.8% on the 24-hour clock, although up pretty big since Friday. I don't remember how low they got, but actually, I'll double tap. We'll look through. They are. Looks like it got down to. I think it was lower than that. I think it was in the 7s. I thought it got to like low 7 over the weekend. Maybe not. Maybe I was mistaken. I was thinking it was approaching. Thought it was like in the low 7s, but it looks like 7.8, 7.85 might have been where it bottomed out at, and it's back up to 9, 8.999. ETH first sale takes it back up over 9, and the floor is thin, as the kids used to say. Maybe they still do say. I don't know. Yeah, actually, what the kids, the unfortunate generation, is saying is that they'd rather stay at home and just rot than actually get out and do anything. Is what the most recent viral clip I saw from clavicular. Sad days. Rather than making millions of dollars, I'd rather just rot. Seems like a mental health issue. I'll get some help. Punks up 4% of the day to 33.94. Clone X, big sell-off, down 16% to 0.29. Mutants down at 1.8% to 1.36. Non-playable characters, one of these new mints, is referencing up 26% of the day, up to 0.0849. Milady's down 8%. Little Pudgy's down 4%. Nakamigos, big sell-off as well, down 23%, just above 0.1 now. D-Gods down 45%, 0.15. I wonder if the sell-offs here had something to do with that Flooring Capital exploit we're going to talk about next. I'm guessing so. I don't know for a fact, but I know the creator, the CEO of Flooring Labs, was a big D-Gods holder and whale in that ecosystem. So I'm wondering if some of the D-Gods got exploited. I do believe before Quit and the Yuga team stepped into, as white hats to help with the exploit. I did see, I think it was about $1 million of NFTs that were exploited. I'm guessing that some of these that were sold off hard were World of Women down 30%, loses 0.1. They're now 0.0968. I think I paid double, triple that for a Galaxy, their secondary collection at one point, which I still hold. Azuki up 5% of the day to 0.83. Brain Rot, speaking of brain rot, up 26% of the day, probably on that Clav clip I was just referencing. Doodle's down 1%, although we'll check their new mint here in a second. I'm not seeing on the volume tab, but I will. There we go. Yeah, Mondrian, 0.12. This minted, it's down 21% of the day, but still up pretty decent from mint price. It minted for 0.08, so it's like a 50% lift, almost, not quite. 40% lift, we'll call it. Good Vibes Club up 7% on the day. Yugen Leaders up 25%. Oni One down. I don't know. I wonder if that was all part of the exploit. Down 21% as well. Wonder what Hyper's World Cup edition is. That's I might check that out. It's pretty cheap. It's just 0.22 hype. I'm guessing some World Cup game similar to the Pup Cup, if I were to guess. Quirky's up 3%, 1.02. I saw Poppy picked up an ape and a doodle. Mochaverse up 23%. Redacted Remilio Babies up 11%. Reorder, it's another new mint, up down 16%, but still above mint, I believe. Normies losing a little bit of their pump, down 11%, but still for a new mint that was nearly free, 0.38 is not too shabby. The Penimals up 71%, 0.168 floor. It's about a $30 floor. If this was 2021, they'd probably already be 3K. Penimals, you might not be, if you can't see how it's spelled and you haven't seen the collection, you might not just instantly be aware that Penimals, the collection, is basically very phallic. How do you say the word? It's animals with their nose or their face or something is basically the shape of a penis. That's this collection. So not quite crypto dick butt level, but not far off. You can see the charts. It's had quite the pump. Not only up 71% of the day, but been doing well since mint. Other collections, grifters. It was a big grifter sale. I saw they're up 9% on the day. Meebit's up 11% a day. They've continued to be on a nice little run since Adam acquired, like, I think a good 800 of them. I believe was the number, 800 and some. And that is our daily market update. Some interesting stuff there. Again, volume is strong, and nice to see these pumps as Nakamigos were a floor thing. That would make sense. So flooring protocol, ones got hit Nakamigos. There was lots of those. D-Gods as well. It makes sense why those are down. The challenge, though, in an exploit like this is because there's not a lot of, I don't think anyways, motion in those particular collections. I don't know if how quickly we'll see the bounce back, if at all. I'm not wishing it will, just calling it like I see it. And I will hit on this before we get into the white hat activity from Quit and the Board of Yacht Club. It's not as dystopian as I think it could get, but it's probably a fitting start on the whole pump fund bounty thing. We had a guy tattoo a ticker on his forehead and ended up not getting paid because instead of bounty work, they tattooed bounty work. But yet, that's how it was. The token is bounty work, but in the directions of the bounty, it was spelled, he spelled it exactly like the directions said. So they misspelled the ticker in the directions. He followed directions to a T, and they chose not to pay him out. So that in itself, like, it's like worse than Polymarket as far as like paying out, resolving things as they should be. Like, the guy should have got paid. He followed the directions. It's not his fault they misspelled the ticker in the directions. Again, this is like, we're not. He did. I will say that after this, they launched another token on behalf of this guy, and he made. I saw 15, looks like up to $17,000 in fees now. So like, potentially life-changing money for this guy. I mean, if he was willing to get a tattoo for like $2,500, I'm assuming 17 grand is quite a bit of money. Second guy did it, bounty.fun, and then someone jumped out of a plane with bounty work on there. Like the people that are for this say, "Oh, this is going to lead to virility. These posts are going to go viral. It's going to onboard so many people." Seek help. I don't see anyone entering this space, becoming an active crypto participant, or even creating a pump fund account because they see someone getting a tattoo on their forehead. I shared it when we first talked about it. Why? Like, I don't care. Do whatever you want. To each their own. No shame. I'm not going to shame anyone. I'm not going to shame anyone for getting a forehead. I think where I net out is it feels bad because it feels like pump fund and the people creating these bounties are taking advantage of people less fortunate, or people who live in places of the world where $2,500 is an annual salary or a significant sum of money. It just I don't know. People can do what they want. It just feels like they're preying on the less fortunate, and not the biggest fan. But GG's. I also don't like, the first comment there. Are you entertained? Like, no, this isn't entertaining at all. Like, anyways, Drew, GM, welcome up to the stage. You may have jumped up to talk about this exploit in the white hat activity per the title. But before I jump into that, I wanted to see, is there anything else that we might have missed in the exploit streets or the security streets that we should be paying attention to, or is that what brought you up this morning?
Yeah, that's what I was popping up for. There's some unrelated news, but that was the main thing.
What was the unrelated news? Let's hit on that.
I don't know if everyone's seeing it. Maybe I'm late to this because I've just been traveling like crazy. But I just spent this morning connecting a offline Claude agent to a Robinhood account. Gave it some guidelines, and it is doing agentic trading. And I have absolutely no influence on it whatsoever. And that was pretty cool.
Nice. Are you Are you going to be tracking this? Like how, you don't have to share exactly, but how much did you throw, like $100 at it, $1,000? How much is it?
I gave it 100 and said turn it into $1 million for
All right.
some guidelines.
All right. Good. Good guidelines. We'll be curious to see how it performs, and I may do this with my daughter's investing account. We'll see. To be determined. I was just going to buy some either Mag 7 or some index funds, but I might have a little fun with Claude for maybe a portion of her account. We'll see. Before we jump into this, last thought on, because I asked, so thank you for the answer. Last thought on the strategy sale of Bitcoin and Strive buying it this way. Well, allegedly, we don't know for a fact, but Strive holds 19,000, 32 Bitcoin, which is over $1 billion. Why would a $2 million buy matter? Zonga says, just his opinion, but this would reveal that it wasn't a pure sell into existing bid liquidity on exchange, which is what threw everyone into a loop. That is a black swan that everyone talks about. This is more akin to ETH Foundation selling to reputable custodians. I agree. I still, my question would be why? Like, why 32? Why not just, why, I just don't know, as if strategy certainly doesn't move in these numbers very often. I don't even think Strive does. It's just a very low amount. So it leads me to think there's probably something else there. Maybe not. Maybe it just was simply that. But and it could have been Strive bought 32 just because 32 was in the news and they know they'd get talked about. Just PR play. They knew if they bought 32. Boy, oh boy. It is buy morning. It is a buy morning. We have more breaking news. We are going to get into the title. I promise it's not engagement baiting, but we have another buy. It's the Coffee with Captain Pump is in full effect this morning. Not only did Sailor buy a bunch of Bitcoin, 1,550 to be exact, we have another big buy, this one on the ETH side, totaling $213 million. That's the math on that is 126,000 ETH. You can probably guess who the buyer might be, but yeah, our fearless leaders, Mr. Sailor and Mr. Tom Lee, are in a buying mood this morning. Bitmine just bought 126,971 ETH worth $213 million. So maybe it's just a couple of buys that we forget about. Maybe these two buys kick off this pump during IPO week as money rotates. I know, like, the consensus, thank you very much for the Pingu tip, Hans, greatly appreciated. He also says on the Mondrian NFTs, be aware that there's the redeem and unredeemed versions. Oh, good call. Of the same collection. So you have to check the traits before you buy. Yeah, that doodle collaboration. There's redeemed and unredeemed versions on the ones that have the physical prints. That's what I'm guessing he's referencing to. The can't remember what they called them, but there's two different collections with physical prints. Make sure you're checking those traits there. Thanks again. Really appreciate the Pingu tip. 500 Pingu from Hans, 690 from Drew. It's a buy and a generous tip morning. Happy Monday morning to everyone here on Coffee with Captain. Greatly appreciated. All right, let's jump into this. I'm going to pull up Quit's post is probably the best one to start from. Let me. I'll pin it up top, and I'll share it on screen here in a second as well, and we will jump into it because this isn't the first time. I doubt it'll be the last time. But the first thing I saw was a post from Quit that said, deleted thread for now, may be more damage to control, will release info later. So I was like, oh, what happened? And then what happened is this. Let me pull it up here. Deleted thread for now, maybe more damage to control, will release more info later. And then shortly after comes out this. A flooring exploit today turned a dust amount of WETH into a near infinite FP token balance, allowing the attacker to drain flooring protocols. This led to follow-up opportunists scooping up tokens from the now depleted pools and exchanging them for underlying NFTs. After analyzing the bug more closely, we found a separate but related exploitable path with more higher value NFTs at risk. These were not part of the earlier exploit simply because their Uniswap pools lacked liquidity. The attacker acquired enough flooring protocol tokens for a FP NFT position, then use a maliciously crafted token ID to break the protocol's internal accounting. The idea was to make ownership checks succeed on one interpretation of the ID, while later bookkeeping diverged on another. The root issue is the packed ownership / indexing logic. BT404 style accounting uses bit packed ownership derived from token IDs by passing a higher bit variant of a real token ID. The attacker could cause ownership lookup to alias back to the real NFT during validation. In other words, the attacker only needed a malicious ID that collided with a real NFT in the protocol's packed accounting model. That created ghost ownership state, and ownership checks and list membership no longer agreed on what was actually owned. Once that ghost state existed, later transfers no longer behaved safely. A transfer performed an unchecked decrement on the malicious attacker's own length, causing an underflow to wrap the actor's balance to a number larger than all NFTs in the pool. The second important underflow occurred in the unwrap / burn path. Once the attacker had drained the real flooring protocol token balance to zero, they hit an unchecked ERC side subtraction during burn, unwrap. Instead of reverting on insufficient balance, it wrapped as well. At that point, the attacker had effectively unbound FP token balance. They were able to dump the price to basically zero, extracting any liquidity in the pool. At this point, a follow-up opportunist recognized what had happened and began scooping up value from the depleted pools by acquiring cheap tokens and exchanging them for underlying NFTs, which they then sold. After digging deeper, we found another related exploit path that could be used against additional vulnerable flooring pools. At that point, waiting was not a responsible option. If we could identify a working path into more pools, another attacker would too. So here's why. So White Hasty Rescue is on. Why I rushed to get back to my computer. Coffee Dev, shout out Coffee Dev, worked on a POC and Grails OTC / Figgy coordinated to get assets needed to perform a recovery. The goal was to remove exposed NFTs from vulnerable flooring pools before another malicious actor could exploit the same paths and extract them first. I won't dwell too much on the rescue contract itself, but it used the same broad bug class in a defensive capacity. In the end, they saved 29 Bored Apes, 4 Mutant Apes, 1 Doggo, 2 CryptoPunks, 1 Azuki, 2 Elementals, 26 Captains, 1 Moobird, and 2 Doodles. They're now safely in Yuga's custody, and they'll work in the coming weeks to place them with the rightful owners. The exploiters still hold more NFTs, so I would not call this resolved. But as far as we can tell, the NFTs that are vulnerable to theft have already been stolen. It's important not to deposit any more NFTs into Flooring Protocol, as these will become immediately vulnerable. I'm glad that we were able to rally a team to rescue what we could, accounting for more than $500,000 worth of NFTs saved on a Sunday. It's no coincidence that these exploits tend to happen on the weekends when malicious actors know that less people will be around to pay attention. Shout out to Coffee Dev, Figgy, PP Man, and Grails OTC for putting in the work. Thanks to Henry the Ape for bringing this to his attention in the first place. Henry the Ape's the CEO founder of CyberKongs. And then thanks to all who DM'd. No rest for the wicked. We won't sleep either. Bored Ape Yacht Club. So I read all that. I don't know if I understood it, other than exploit happened on Flooring Protocol. Bad guys were effectively stealing NFTs. Quit and all those I just mentioned come to the rescue, and they use the exploit to acquire these NFTs, and then so they can get them back for the right, like basically stop them from being stolen. And they're going to work over the next couple weeks to get them to the rightful owners. Drew, I'm going to ask you, because is there a way, is easy way to, I guess, put Quid's thread into like layman's terms, like to more simplistically describe what they did? Or is it just, hey, there was a hack, they used the same, they created a contract to take advantage of the hack to basically save the NFTs. Is there a better way to put that?
Yeah, I mean, so hard to put like these super technical things in a layman term. You could think of it as like this exploit happened because someone was able to manipulate the Ethereum protocol contract and checks to see who was the rightful owner. So people deposited an NFT into their protocol, and then only the person that deposited it was supposed to withdraw it. However, this hacker manipulated it, so it didn't actually check who could withdraw the film done. Like very, almost like wording that way sounds wrong, but that's kind of what it is. So this was like, I wouldn't say it was kind of a complex way, but just because the hacker is doing it doesn't mean that other people can't do it. So luckily, Coffee, Quit, and everyone were just fast enough to do the exact same thing that the hacker was doing. I think by the time Quit saved all the Yuga assets, I think they've already floored, I think it was like 600 or 700K worth of assets in the WEEF bids. Don't quote me on that. I couldn't find an exact number. I think someone created a dashboard for it. But yeah, that's definitely why, if anyone noticed over the weekend, most collections had like a 20 to 30% dip randomly. It's because they just weeped it into oblivion. And then the WEEF bots just took the floor prices just way lower.
Yep. Shout out. That's Samuel shared that in the chat when I was referencing CloneX. So the ones that basically as I was going through that daily market update, most, if not all those collections, minus maybe some of the brand new ones, any of the older collections, legacy collections that were down double digits, almost all of them, if not all of them, were as a result of this exploit. They were the ones that got hurt by it, as they were the ones that got, as Drew just described, they got early and then dumped into WEEF bids, and it sent the floor lower. Drew, my question for you, and this is where I've become probably more kind of concerns, right? We're less trusting of smart contracts and more concerned of protocol risk now than any time I've been in crypto. Was this, do you think, and I know part of it's just a guess, we may never know unless the original hacker shows himself and writes a threat on it. Was this simply there was a hacker and they've just been hunting and they found this exploit? Or would you guess they were probably either AI, some agent, some LLM helped find the vulnerability, or the hacker used AI to code the exploit? Like, do you think that my concern of AI's help, like basically increasing the risk in protocol and smart contract risk, because it's just going to help find these vulnerabilities so much faster or help a lot more people do this stuff?
Yeah. It's essentially like all the above, right? I mean, AI, you can use it for good and you can use it for bad. So that's why audits or other people that are auditing, even OPSEC, other things that even I'm doing myself. It's essentially good versus bad. Now, unfortunately, in a decentralized environment, it's I would say like we are not a step ahead. There's just way too many scammers that are just purposely looking for this stuff. However, I would say in this scenario, like the last time the Flooring Protocol tweeted was like almost a year ago. I mean, it's been a pretty dead protocol in my opinion. Like I'm pretty sure they just walked. I don't know if it rugged or they just gave up or walked away. Or, I don't know the history there because I just don't do lending personally. But 100,000% can confirm that hackers, scammers, however you want to label them, they are 1,000% using AI to look for older protocols, older contracts, like platforms that just essentially gave up, do not exist anymore, looking for their on-chain contract that still hold assets. That's the same for, if you remember like NFT 20 or NFTX, like there are so many older protocols from 2021, 2020, where for all the grails, for all the projects that are still here, like they still hold a decent amount of assets, and either those people are gone, they forgot, they left, people don't even realize it. Like Frost, he just did a script. I'm pretty sure he posted about it. He just used AI to find, I think it was like $2 million in ICO refunds that was shared across like 10K wallets. I mean, and only that wallet, hopefully can go back and withdraw it. But like, this is the kind of stuff. I mean, we do stuff, 2 weeks ago, do I remember what I was doing on chain? Hell no. I mean, it's just like kind of everything moves here so fast, and if you don't have reminders, or you don't note it down. There's no email reminder. There's nothing on chain reminding you. I mean, I think the best thing is using like DBank. If anyone ever, I highly recommend everyone go to DBank and paste in your wallet address, and that way it shows you if there's any dollar values across any chains or any platforms or protocols. Or the Miracle even shows you within MetaMask now. Like I did that, and I found like $2,000 worth of an airdrop that I didn't even know from like 2023.
DBank.
Or you have anything staked.
Just DEBANK.com.
Yeah, do that /profile and then paste your wallet address, and it'll literally show you everything. I mean, think about BendDAO. Like there's a lot of people that have a lot of stuff in BendDAO that they forgot about, or they haven't upgraded to their new contracts. Like there's so much stuff out there.
Yeah. Do you have to connect a wallet to DBank, or can you just search by?
You do not. No. Here, I'll give me 1 second. I got a tweet on this actually.
Yeah, that's a new one for me. I've not used DBank, but I will. I mean, we're checking.
I'll finally tweet this.
And yeah, I mean, first hot wallet I searched says $2,500. Yeah, like if you stake stuff, like I've got, it's not a lot, but I've got like $9.27 in Blur. I completely forgot about. I had no idea it was there. District 1, shout out to Rally. Was that the exclamation point Rally? $13, $26 in Sandbox. Most of them are insignificant, but we'll talk about revoke.cash, right? Like revoke your approvals, which makes sense, but it's not just revoke your approvals. It's use this sort of stuff. Use tools like DBank. Do you have funds that you airdrop claims or other things that you just haven't? Frosty said he just so far just found over 20 ETH, but he is letting it run currently on over 100,000 smart contracts. It's not just find funds you haven't claimed, but I think also be aware of do you still have assets in old protocols that whether ones like this. I'm not taking shots at Flooring Lab, but to your point, like they haven't tweeted in over a year. They're probably not actively building. It might still be in use. It might still work, but I just don't think this is a space you want things that are you want to have at least material amount of assets in protocols or smart contracts that aren't being frequently managed or updated or protected against security risks like this. Because even new stuff, even stuff that's going through proper audits and has hundreds of millions or billions of dollars in TVL, they're at risk of this stuff. So something that's been kind of forgotten about or is not being actively managed, big risk there. And I don't think it's wise to be using some of these old, I don't say defunct or dead, but like inactive, things that have, just aren't being actively managed, aren't being actively built. Probably not the best idea to have funds in there, because I do like anything's vulnerable potentially if there is a hole. But I think it's would not be surprised to see, unfortunately, more of these exploits occur to protocols like Flooring Protocol that still have assets, a lot of assets that aren't like. And in one, I saw someone talk about it was Bo. Is Bo from Pudgy Penguin does work with you guys at Born Security DAO as well? Am I thinking right?
Yeah, he does. Yeah, he's a Pudgy Penguin security guy.
Yeah, he brought up and again, it's I know it is you don't want to create fear. You don't want to FUD things without like really knowing. But I think at the same time, you do want to at least encourage people to think about things. You want to at least encourage, I think this is a good post. Again, I'm not knocking Blur. I'm not taking shots at Blur, but I'm just going to quote Bo here. I'm reading this post. Says exploits like yesterday's remind me that there's a large lending protocols that can be dangerous for NFTs writ large. Currently, over 3,200 NFTs in Blur's lending wallet, including Pudgy, Apes, and many other collections. And in his opinion, the most plus EV thing you can do with an NFT is fully own it and avoid third-party risk. I don't think anyone would want to see $5 million of NFTs hitting the market into bids if there was a smart contract exploit or private key leak. Not saying that Blur is unsafe, but these are the type of targets attackers will go after in the age of AI as some protocols wind down. And I agree. Like, I'm not saying Blur is winding down, but they're not really growing. They're losing market share. Like, I'm not saying that it's at risk. It probably is not at risk, but it's something that you really should be thinking about. And it's unfortunate, even if you're not using it, if hypothetical, big hypothetical, but if Blur's lending protocol were to be exploited and there wasn't someone able to find a quick fix, or White Hat step in and stop the bleeding, secure the NFTs, you're talking $2 million of pudgies, $1.6 million of apes, add in $400,000 of mutants. Like, you're talking between just apes and pudgies over $4 million. And if their exploit occurs, they're not holding these NFTs. They're immediately dumping them into bids, which would wipe out any bid liquidity. It would crash the floors. And then you see a cascading effect there. Go ahead.
There's no repayment plan there.
Yeah,
That would be like catastrophic. And especially with Blur, the biggest thing there, I think Feld commented on it and said it, is that they have an upgradable proxy.
What does that mean?
If someone gets a hold of that, that means that if anyone has the private keys or admin access, they can upgrade and change the actual contract. It's mutable. It's not immutable.
And I guess help me understand why you would do that on a lending protocol, just so you could update it as new updates come. But if they're not updated, like, why not?
Yeah, most lending protocols, or most like those, they're going to do it. So if you don't have something that's immutable, then you have to deploy a new contract every time.
Mm-hmm.
And that means someone would have to unstake and restake, and that's a lot of friction.
Okay.
So that way you just have an upgradable one where, you just make updates to the contract and it's the same contract. You don't have to redeploy it. However, that obviously comes with huge risk on who has the private keys, who has access to it. I mean, we've seen it time and time again with all the DeFi protocols. So it's there's always risk.
There certainly is. And I'm someone who, while I don't have any active, I'm going to double check. I don't have any active NFTs that I've pulled liquidity out of. I don't have any lending protocols currently. I've used them, and it was a tool, it was a resource for me that really helped me grow my portfolio in 21, 22. I took out multiple loans. I would take out a loan, I'd use the liquidity to go mint the hot collection, I'd do a few flips, I'd pay off the loan, and rinse and repeat. And it was a big help in terms of freeing up liquidity, tapping into the liquidity of these NFTs that were high value. And it was a way to almost effectively put a stop loss on NFTs. I've shared the Moonbirds example before, where I think I pulled out like $16,000 loan on a Moonbird on a 6-month loan. And by the time the loan came due, I think the floor was like $3,000. And I let the bird fly. In the beginning, I thought, felt kind of guilty about that. And then the founder of NFTFi, who I was using at the time, was on the show. He's like, no, that's the intent. He's like, the lenders know what they're getting into. They know that's the risk, and it's part of the game. Like, he's like, he basically, in so many words, that you shouldn't repay a loan like that if it's underwater, unless it's something that's really, you're really, you have some sort of emotional connection to it. It doesn't make any financial sense. All that being said, I don't have any. They don't have any NFTs and lending protocols now. If I did, though, I'd be thinking about taking them out this morning because of these sort of exploits. Like, it's just, and I'm not trying to create fear, but I also don't think it's wise to just put our head in the sand and ignore this stuff. Like, I don't think they got it fixed. It's not going to happen again, because unfortunately, it probably is going to happen again. It may not be with NFTs, but it could be some vault. Now that I say that, like, I don't have any NFTs and lending protocols. I do have some. I'm providing liquidity on a few platforms, and I'm going to go check it. Like, I feel pretty safe, but it's not like I haven't done any audits. And this is when I say, like, I've got smart contract / protocol concern early on in my crypto journey, it was like it was healthy concern. It was concern that made me like, okay, make sure I don't share my private keys anywhere. Make sure that I'm using multiple different wallets, not just a hot wallet and a cold wallet, but have, hot, freezing cold, warm, lukewarm, a variety of wallets, public and non-public wallets that I use for different things. And just have safeguards, whether it's wallet based or extension based, to make sure that I'm not getting phished, not clicking anything, not signing any contracts I shouldn't, et cetera, et cetera. The risk was on me, meaning if I got exploited, it was going to be because I did something wrong. I got socially engineered. I clicked a phishing link. I signed a bad contract. Unfortunately, knock on wood, I've never done that. Been very fortunate. I fat fingered and I bought, maybe bought a fake NFT collection. I've maybe had some mistakes like that, but that were minimal cost. But fortunately, I've never been exploited personally. But my concern now has shifted. Now, while I still have that, I move with that safety and OPSEC in mind. My concern has shifted much more so to, do I have assets and even though I used to say, hey, don't put any money you can afford to lose. There's smart contract risk. There's protocol risk. I never really believed it. I mean, I believed it, but I didn't. Does that make sense, Drew? Like I knew it was a risk, but I never, it didn't stop me from using NFTFi. It didn't stop me from using BinDAO, or there was another one. Start with a P. Paraswap. Paraswap?
Yeah, Paraswap or Cyan.
So it didn't stop me from using them. But what I'm trying to explain is it would now. Maybe not stop me, but it would make me think long and hard and twice. And something like, do I really need to pull this liquidity out? Is there another way I can go? I need 3 ETH of liquidity and I don't have 3 ETH in my hot wallet. Is there another way I can go access this? Could I just unstake something and rotate something around? Is there another way to do this as opposed to putting a high dollar asset in a protocol that I'm unsure of? And again, I'm not trying, please don't take this. I'm not trying to create fear, uncertainty, and doubt. It's not what I'm doing, but it's very real. Like the game has changed. And while you could say there's always been bad actors, I think the bad actors they have a lot more tools at their disposal today, thanks to AI. And there's a lot of people who've maybe been bad actors. They've just not been smart enough, or they've not had the wherewithal or the ability to do these exploits. And now just conversing with Claude or ChatGPT, they can. I don't know. Any thoughts on that, Drew?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing is everyone always thinks, oh, it won't happen to me. They're going to go after whales. They're going to go after people that have. Now, these people, they do specifically target whales, right? But they also have spray and pray methods. And honestly, it doesn't matter. Like if you're ever dealing with DeFi or lending or anything, like it honestly doesn't matter who you are, because they're going after the contract. Like the contract is a single source of truth, contingent. There's no off-chain mechanisms or anything. But all of these platforms and all of these contracts, everything is shutting down. Think about how many marketplaces have shut down, how many art minting sites have shut down. Like we're going to see over the next 3 or 4 years, new vulnerabilities show up. And obviously if these platforms are shut down, that means that they're no longer pushing security updates, or the contracts are no longer getting patched, or there's no longer updates to the to whatever's needed off chain, and they're gonna be manipulated. I mean, AI is just going to find it. Like what we were deploying back in 2021 versus what we're deploying now in 2026 is vastly, vastly, vastly different. And that's just the nature of the game. Like I'll never forget in 8th grade. This was like, I'm not gonna date myself, but way back in 8th grade. Favorite computer teacher, favorite computer class. My teacher told me, what you learn today is going to be dead in 3 years. And that was way back in the day. And now we have AI. I mean, dare I almost say what we learned today is going to be dead in 1.5 years, just because of the pace that we're innovating with technology. I mean, it's just how fast it's constantly moving. And it is a good AI versus bad AI versus, tips and tricks race that we're going through right now. And unfortunately, whether it's Web 2 or Web 3, because this stuff is happening in Web 2 as well, there are CVEs or vulnerabilities coming out every single day. It is just a rat race. That's all it is. And it happens every single sort of, with the revolution. I mean, it happened when people were transitioning from cash to debit cards to credit cards. It happened from debit cards, credit cards to digital wallets like Apple Pay. I mean, it's the nature of the game. And then I'm sure in 10 years, things will be fine. and we'll be talking about chips in our skin or something, and then vulnerabilities around that.
Yeah, I think one thing you said there that just to double tap on or pull the string on a little bit is it's not even necessarily protocols that have been shut down. I'm sure those become a attack vector as well, but I think even more concerning are the ones that haven't been shut down but are just in like maintain, not even maintain mode, just in cruise mode, like Flooring Protocol. That's like, hey, it's still there, it still works, but we're not updating it. We're not doing it. Like, it's not actively being updated and active. Like, there's no, ongoing audits. There's no, active security. I think those are some of the ones that I think might be the most at risk, are ones that, oh, you've had some assets in this vault or this, lending protocol or this liquidity pool for a year and it's been fine. And you set it, you forget it. Maybe you go in and you claim your yield every month or every quarter and you don't really think much about it. But if it's not actively, if there's no updates coming out, very well could be, I think that's a very real target, right?
Yeah. I mean, just for anyone, and this is not financial advice, do your own research, follow, whatever. I have completely removed everything I have from DeFi. I have. I think that I'm probably not going to enter it for at least another year. I think that my risk level of what I am comfortable investing into a platform with the risk is just severely outpaced until everything gets caught up. Now, if you are in DeFi or you're in a protocol, whatever it may be, you have to ensure that you are up to date, whether it's the Discord, whether it's the X, whether it's email newsletters, that protocol, that update is consistently aware, meaning they have a security team of vulnerabilities, and they are consistently getting an audit every single time they make a change. Because a lot of times they will get an audit when they launch and then never get an audit again. So if you go look at, what's a good example? I was just looking at one the other day. I was just looking at another one. Even Polymarket is actually a fantastic example. Every single time they make a change or an update, they get an audit from at least 5 or 6 different audit firms. Now, granted, they're dealing with billions and millions of dollars, and not every protocol needs to get an audit from 5 or 6 different firms, but they have to get an audit every time they make an update. And if they are not, then that takes your risk level from low to medium to extremely high.
You said in a year or so until we catch up. What gives you the confidence that we'll actually catch up? I just that's where my concern is. Are we always going to be playing catch up to the AI overlords at this point?
I think Mythos is gonna help a ton, right? And I just think that right now AI is still the wild west. I just tried explaining me connecting my Claude agent via an MCP connection to my Robinhood, which honestly was probably one of the best user experiences I've ever had dealing with any third-party platform connection to the AI, to a few finance group chats and a few of my close buddies that I have. And all of them were like, what the fuck are you talking about? 1, I would never connect it. 2, I don't even understand what you're saying. And so there's no fundamental understanding of just AI in general, MCP, anything that maybe we're all so deep and we're just all normalized. And because we talk to each other so much, we just think that we're so behind, yet we're so far ahead. Where literally the fact that from a normal Web 2 perspective, the fact that you can get instant responses from Grok or from ChatGPT or Gemini, or you can compare calendars to people, they think they're AI experts. And not that they're not, it's great that they're using it. But this kind of stuff is just astronomical levels compared to where I think everyone is going to have a baseline fundamental understanding and also be forced to do it from their 9-to-5 jobs. And that's where it's going to level set. And then because so many more people are doing it, that means there's so many more use cases. And because there's so many more use cases, that means that they really, really, really have to define or lock down the security or vulnerabilities, or they're going to be discovered because people are using it in ways that they're not currently at a mass scale.
Yeah. I mean, it's I'm just thinking through this in real time. So my thoughts might not land, but where my thoughts are, my genuine, transparent, candid thoughts. If let's just say it's $1,000. If I'm putting $1,000 in play today, right now, this moment, I have more trust in putting that $1,000 into Robinhood and letting Claude manage it on my behalf. So I have more confidence in letting an AI agent manage funds on my behalf in a centralized exchange than I do put it into a DeFi protocol, a decentralized DeFi protocol, due to the threat that a bad actor, an AI agent could go and exploit said DI protocol. Like, and that's just like, if you would have said, oh, and forget 5 years ago, even a year or two ago, that I would be more likely to put funds in Coinbase or Robinhood and then let an AI agent just go to town, manage the funds more so than I would actively managing funds in DeFi, I probably would have looked at you funny. But that's where I'm at. Like, that's, can the AI agent lose money? Is it guaranteed to sure return? No, but I don't think that. I think there's far less risk that Robinhood gets exploited. And I guess you could say, well, that someone could exploit Claude, and then they could, it could sell all my stuff or buy worthless. I don't know. I don't know why, but I don't really have concern over Robinhood, Coinbase, Claude, OpenAI, ChatGPT, these giants that are, you mentioned Polymarket even. Like, Polymarket and Kalshi, I feel maybe it's just like, I don't want to say they're too big to fail, because we've seen large protocols fail. See FTX. I think that was different. I think FTX failed because SBF got greedy and was stealing user funds and over leveraging himself, and just greed. It failed because of the founder greed, who was stealing user funds. I don't know, and I know anything can happen, but I just where I net out is I feel a lot more. My funds feel a lot safer in centralized exchanges, and even letting AI manage funds than I do in a lot of the, especially protocols that aren't being actively managed. Like you said, like, hey, anytime there's an update, they got to pass not 1 or 2, but 5 or 6 audits. I'm not saying like that should be table stakes or that should be the norm, but one should be. It's not sufficient to launch your smart contract, have it audited, and then then do updates and not have the updates audited. Like, every update is effectively a new smart contract to some degree, or every update certainly has the potential to become a new attack vector or create new holes in the contract. Anytime it's changed, like it's back to those audits should be. And I'm not the security expert. Drew is, so it's not just me saying this. It's many security experts. I saw we had Philip jump on stage as well. Before we go to Philip, if you want to get in here, I want to I pinned Figgy's quote up top as well. But I'll paraphrase this, because some of it, like what they saved, I already shared, was in Quit's post. But Figgy said, we just finished a white hat operation on an exploit discovered in Florian protocol, now safely in Yuga's custody, or safely in the custody of Yuga Labs, is all those NFTs I mentioned earlier, including 29 apes, 4 mutants, 2 punks, and more. Quit, the VP of blockchain, recovered the NFTs. We'll leave the details for him to go over in a separate thread. There was an exploit earlier this morning on the same protocol, which left some collections already rated. Huge shout out to Coffee Dev, and I know is Coffee Dev a new handle? Because Coffee's been around for a while. I know he's working with Abstract, I believe. Yeah. But it used to be something else, or has it always been Coffee Dev? Do you know, Drew?
No, I think he's always been Coffee Dev. He used to have I think he still has his ape PFP, but he was doing a ton with apes, and then got absorbed into abstract everything. Dude's a legend though.
Yeah. So shout out, and like, I know it's been kind of like concern this morning has been the theme, maybe to sum it up. Man, this is part of what gets me so excited about crypto and Web3 is this sort of stuff. So for every exploit like this, when you have white hats like Coffee Dev, like Quit, like Yuga stepping up with funds, and this is not the first time they've done it. Like, Drew, you know better than me, but this is, I can think of at least 2 more that was probably the same, if not more, NFTs they saved due to some exploit. I can't even remember the specifics, but I know that there's been multiple times like this where Yuga stepped up, and sometimes it's been dev work, other times it's been, I think they negotiated with one of the hackers one point and bought back a lot of the NFTs on behalf of people. Like, they do a lot of good for the space at large. And yeah, I know there's a lot of people in the Bored Ape Yacht Club that give them their flowers for doing this. I even saw like ICO Beast, known NFT critic, maybe one of the loudest NFT critics. Yeah, I saw him giving the club flowers today. And it's like, it does really, I guess it restores my faith, maybe not in humanity, but it restores my faith in the crypto industry when we see these efforts. Because this wasn't like, this was on a Sunday, right? Like this on a Sunday, and you have half dozen people that drop everything they're doing and put up, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of dollars to go save NFTs for people they probably don't even know. It's just like, just to do the good thing, like to really do something for the greater good. And so, yeah, I do want to make sure we're acknowledging not just Quit, but Coffee Dev, and he mentioned PP Man and Figgy for green lighting that. Yeah, here, you know, the Grails OTC says he quietly instructed our Grails OTC trading desk to front the money in NFTs to rescue the at-risk assets from the protocol. We'll work together with the protocol devs to return these assets once the solution is sorted. Could mean contract relaunches and token reassurances within the protocol or more. But thanks to this move, we were able to save dozens of assets from impacting the market and Flooring Protocol token from being compromised. Yeah, I love to see it. Love to see it. And again, for the concerns I have, like, you know, not to speak for Drew, but when Drew said like, oh, he'll give it a year or so for, you know, to kind of, for the good actors to catch up, like it's not hopeless. Like because there is a lot of good people like Quit and Coffee Dev that, like, they take this stuff serious. You know, you know, I know Zach XBT gets a lot of attention for his investigations and calling out all the scammers, and that's important. But I would like to see, and I know Quit gets his flowers. Coffee Dev probably not as often as should. I'm glad to see him getting the love here. But it's like there's a lot of really good people in the space that really do go above and beyond for the space at large, and gain nothing personally, right? Like
I love the way you're just twisted it, and you're right. You're 100% right. It's not that the people are evil and that they want this to happen. They certainly don't. But it's the incentive system and that we don't hold people accountable, basically, that created this environment that made people behave in a certain way. So we have to change the environment. For example, when it comes to marketing, right? There is a certain push internally to kind of skip these security efforts because you only changed this little thing. Like now we have to call these 8 guys and whatever, and oh my god, it's so much work. And we want to push out the news now. Have you seen the competition? They have pushed out 3 new news, and that's the way the shit just happens. So we have to set the correct environment and also take care of all these social layer variables, which we have done in the past, in order to tackle those issues, in order to hold people accountable from the beginning.
I'm curious,
what do you deliver? There should be an on-chain event that punished them for not delivering, for example.
So I do want a couple follow-up questions. You talk about like we need to change the incentive system. My first question, like how? Like how do we change that? And then like in some cases, like to hold these people accountable. I guess in this case, you're saying like holding Flooring Protocol accountable, because we probably never discover who the actual exploiters are, right?
You start with all these DAO companies, make them transparent. Like that's the most simple thing you can do. Like make all the books transparent. Like they say they're DAOs, they say they subscribe to this mindset, so they shouldn't have an issue with making the books public, right? And these kind of mentality you have to keep in mind. And also when you develop tools, then we can talk about like OIDC enabled sign in with Ethereum and having zero knowledge proofs on chain for your internal logs, so it's always auditable. But these are the things we can talk about in details then. But you have to start creating an environment where you hold people accountable, where they really feel like they cannot cheat the system anymore, because everyone will ask for the data, for whatever you need in order to find out, are they lying, are they not lying, do we need to punish them, and all this type of stuff.
Yeah, but this is like the back and forth of centralization, decentralization. The only way to do that is to introduce centralized variables. which I think unfortunately crypto is getting more and more desensitized to, which totally defeats the purpose. It's very hard. I think there's almost, dare I say, an identity crisis on how to do this, because this also happens in Web 2 every single day. There's just loopholes, and the government's not going to chase every single thing where it does that with centralized factors introduced as well. So I think it's a big reset and new standards that have yet to be discovered, and this is why I think crypto itself is still young and new. I think we are still very, very, very early.
I agree, and that's kind of where I was going to go. I have a question for both of you. We'll start with Drew and then go back to Philip. Is because you said something that we haven't discovered yet. Like, is there? We'll go again, first Drew and then Philip. Is there something in between? Right? Does it have to be binary? It's centralized, it's decentralized. Is there some environment, some model, some structure that gives us the freedom, the privacy, the flex, like the sovereignty of the decentralized world that we love, while also gives us the safety, security, and peace of mind that some of these centralized, and I know some would wholeheartedly disagree with me when I say peace of mind of a centralized platform, but I mean, I didn't become an active crypto participant until January of 21, but I had funds in Coinbase back till maybe like 2018, 2017 maybe, and not a lot, but I had some funds in there. It was for a while, not nearly long enough, because I stopped it. I was like DCAing $25 a week into Ethereum back when Ethereum was sub 100, and then I paused it for God knows why, and I never restarted it. Otherwise, I would have had a lot more funds to play with in NFT summer. My point being is there the opportunity for something, another model that's not so binary as, oh, it's decentralized or it's centralized? Is there something in between, or is this just I don't know. Like, thoughts on that, Drew? Is there some model, some structure that we haven't thought of yet? And maybe this is quite, you just said we haven't thought of yet. So maybe the answer is, yeah, we just haven't thought of it yet. But even like theoretically, is there something that could give us our cake and eat it too when it comes to, I want self-custody, I want this self-sovereignty, I want this, but I also want the insurance, or the I'm not saying needs to be FDIC insured, but do you know what I'm saying? Does this make sense? Is there something that the opportunity for something we just haven't thought of yet when it comes to structure?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is where Web 2 you have banks, Web 3 you have self custody, right? I think this is the discovery, which hopefully in the next 2 years is figured out, and I think a lot of this unfortunately has to do with politics and government now. Is the Web 2.5, because once the Web 2.5 gets figured out, that is when we are going to see mass adoption, in my opinion. And in my opinion, that is not figured out.
It's funny.
That is not.
It's funny. I called it Federated Web 2.5, and I already
yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
And the tech is already there. I would say it's more about how you apply it and build frameworks around the tech. We have CockroachDB, we have Kubernetes, we have zero knowledge proof. We can push the zero knowledge proof roots to chain and have the locks in a Nash equilibrium with some DAOs. Like, this is possible, but the thing why we haven't done it is mostly, I would say, in this industry, we got lazy and we got comfortable. It's like, yeah, number got up and we did a little optimizations here and there and some based roll-ups here and stuff there. But fundamentally, that wasn't innovation. That was just like iteration on already existing software. But maybe this is changing now because people are forced to become innovative again.
Great take. We got complacent, right? We got I did an audit. We're safe. We're secure, and that hack. We've protected ourselves against that. I think we got number going up. Like, it's working. It's the yield's there. It's like we're not. It's never going to happen to us. And I think, to your point, anyone in crypto, anyone that has a DeFi protocol that has a smart contract, they at least should be thinking that it could happen to us. And I'm not saying everyone has to go the poly market route. I know that not everyone has the funding to do that, to go get 5 or 6 audits every time they have an update to their smart contract. But it should probably become the standard, the norm, or the expectation that anytime they do an update, they get at least an audit done. And I just, it is like the whole, we were talking of Web3 and some people, oh, like this is what, like the reality is we probably need to go backwards. And it probably is some Web 2.5 model that's taking the best from what works in Web 2 and adding some crypto features versus
it has to. We need this architecture. It's physically, it's a literal physics problem at that point. Like you cannot have the whole fucking world on one singular sequential chain. It's just impossible. It's a physics problem.
Well, I think the other part of this, and this is like a whole other can of worms, is, from Web 2 side, there's bug bounty programs, and you report a bug bounty, and they hopefully pay you. Otherwise, typically they don't. They close your findings and then they patch it. However, if you exploit it from a Web 2 perspective, if you're not like North Korea or someone, like you'll go to jail. Whereas in Web 3, right, they'll go ahead and exploit it because they submit a bug bounty, or teams don't care because they don't have the security team, they don't have the right team, it's a bunch of noise. They're like, yeah, bullshit, go ahead and exploit us, which we've literally seen time and time again. And then they do that, and then hopefully they return back 90% of the funds. They say 10% is good. But if there was like a proper bug bounty, a proper structure in place, there would be a lot more than probably the 70 good people that I can name in the space versus the thousands and thousands and thousands of scammers, because they're all, and a lot of those too, they're not even scammers, they're just gray hat hackers, right? They're like, oh, this protocol pissed me off, I'm going to go ahead and show them. And they have the skills to do so, versus the few white hat hackers versus all the black hat hackers. So like that also too, from like a Web3 perspective, is a huge issue.
Yep. More bounty program, or if like that's the standard. Hey, every time you do an update, the standard is you need to be getting audits done. You should have a bug bounty program. Like this could be like table stakes for anyone that's serious about this business. What you just described just makes sense. I'm really curious to get a Joe. We only get Joe on the stage every once in a while, and it's usually some really big brain thoughts when we do. And speaking of building in DeFi and building in crypto, not my place to share what he's building, but someone who's building a protocol that's maybe already hundreds of millions, if not approaching billions of dollars of assets on said protocol. I'm genuinely curious how you're thinking about safety and security, and how not only yourself, but how you're passing along that confidence and trust and relieving any the concern from the clients and those you may be working with. Joe, GM, appreciate you joining us. And feel free, if you were going in a different direction, feel free to take it there. But I am really curious as a builder how you're handling this, or how you're thinking about this moving forward.
Sure. First of all, it's Iran controls that strait because of the Houthi rebels. So
thank you. Interesting.
Those are the pirates that are work for hire that they employ, and that's basically how that area of the world is.
And it's like, okay. and you're telling me like we just can't, like whether the U.S. or another Navy, just that these pirates are that entrenched and that strong that we just can't go in and just it's not just easy to take them out.
It just isn't feasible the way that the world works. It's not. We're not good at guerrilla warfare. Our military has been designed to fight the Soviets and the Chinese, not to fight block to block, or in this case, little boats. And I mean, the thing is you're not fighting the Houthis like they're a street gang. You're fighting them like they're backed by a country, right? But they're just backed by a country there, And, they've been operating in that section of the world for decades. And so they can dip into Africa. And now we got to invade Africa? We're invading Ethiopia or Eritrea,
like we could go in and we could take out their boats right now, but they're just going to leave. They're going to dip into Africa, and a week after the fact, they're going to be right back at it. And
So security. So the industry doesn't really care about security. So
part of the problem.
It's not one industry, right? And like you're running into a problem here where we spent $500,000 developing technology in 21, 22. We did it the right way. We got the patents and did the whole thing. And that was to, at the time, was specifically to make sure your NFTs would never be stolen. And it works. And the industry told us to go fuck ourselves. So nobody cares. And so then we as a company had to pivot. And along the way, 22, 23, 24, we've had multiple entities, I won't use their names, take our tech and, bastardize it and deploy it in ways that it half does the job or 10% does the job, but not pay us for it and fight us in court to not pay us. So why would we develop anything here, right? And that's not just our story. That's a lot of serious tech builders who came here and built stuff, and a lot of the industry told us to go fuck ourselves. So we left, and we went and we built stuff for other people to make money and to have companies, because everything here doesn't work the way it should. And you're not going to have a global standard. There is no such thing as a global standard. That doesn't work because this is digital money, cross borders. Most of this stuff is not even recognized as assets in court. You still don't have recognition for this as an asset in court. So when you see people get arrested, they're getting arrested for harming companies, not individuals usually, right? That's the part that they don't tell you, is that the companies have the ability to enforce law because they're looking at certain parts of the law, but they're not doing it against people usually, unless they're using the phone to scam you with it. So you run into this situation where you want to have decentralization, but then you want to have global standards. Those things don't work together. It just doesn't work. And decentralization isn't real because on some level, everybody returns back to the centralized. The thing about that we learned about decentralization over the last, 5 years is basically everybody wants decentralization when it benefits them, but nobody wants to take the responsibility when it costs them either money, capital, effort, resources. So you're in this area, right? And that's how come people return to the central exchanges, because they think, oh, that's safe, right? And on one level, it is because they're protecting the money, but they're not protecting the customer. They're not protecting the data, right? If I'm with my bank has to protect both, right? But that didn't happen naturally, right? The banks, the retailers, hell, even the credit card bureaus, none of them were giving any care to our data until 2017. And for 2 decades, we were having our data exploited, and the banks and the government and the credit card agencies were telling us that was our fault. Remember? Mm-hmm. And if you were a victim of identity fraud, this happens. And remember, they used to tell us, don't use our debit card, because if we used our credit card and there was a scam, they would refund us. But if it was our debit card and the cash came out of our account, they wouldn't.
Yeah, it is. It's also like as you describe it like that, and talking about like banks and how slow they were even to like identity protection, and it was decades after the fact. I think we lost you there for a second. We'll see if we can get you back up here. But it's like when we say like we're so early, like put that in perspective, how early we really are. Like it took banks decades to start protecting some of their customers. Actually, I'm curious, when did FDIC insurance start? 1933. So actually pretty early. I thought I was going to read it was going to be like in the 50s or 60s, but actually I that actually did come around. It was a FDR.
So FDR, can you hear me?
Yeah, FDR, the Banking Act of 33.
FDR, most of the banking stuff happened during FDR. FDIC wasn't about identity fraud, but CFPB, CFTC are the agencies that help us here. Okay? They've been defunded in this administration. Okay? You used to, so there's tons of bullshit, 2-tier, 3-tier, I'm sure Drew knows this as well, central exchanges. So you have your top central exchanges, and I'm not going to explain it, on the standards of, say, market making, but it works similar. But you have your top central exchanges, you have your like 1B central exchanges, and then below that you have tiers. And the lower tiers you go, they'll give you higher rewards to go use, but most of those are for money laundering. And they're set up very specifically to wash cash and bring it back around. And they're fine. You can ignore them. The problem is that sometimes people go and stick their money on there, and sometimes they become scams. And you never hear about this over here because everybody over here is talking about their Coinbase card or what CZ did, right? Or cracking this. They're not talking about some little shit exchange that popped up and has been running and, maybe washed, $2 billion worth of cash. And then all of a sudden it did a last ditch drain everybody effort. And then it'll drain like 1,000 people. Okay. And then it'll turn off and it'll go away. And there's used to be agencies within the government, the CFTC and the CFPB, whose job it was to basically take all of that entity apart, find out everything that's happened, capture the money, and then distribute it to its U.S. Victims, because it's not taking care of the world, it's taking care of the U.S. victims. That money now, if it was happening today, goes into the Bitcoin reserve thingy. Okay, so they've taken away your customer protections too. Okay, so like we're not evolving, we're devolving. Okay, so you have the AI risk where anybody who has a tad bit of technical know-how and a cloud code can go and look through these smart contracts and find these exploits, because a lot of these smart contracts, you have to remember, were when you bring in VC at any stage of an early tech, you are going to get a de-evolution of the advancements early on because it is a rush to bring the capital back. So you end up with a protocol that may have been built by smart engineers who understood technology and DeFi. And there's these are large contracts, some of these. And then there's a rush by the next one who just got VC funded to get its product out so it can get mindshare and go to market and make the money. And so those audits, Surtech's garbage, and it's been garbage from the beginning. So those audits are not the caliber that they need to be, but nobody picked up the little minute details because they're not freaking Claude, okay? But now they are, right? And so any tiny error inside of that, you're running a risk. And most of it's happening on bridges, of course, because that's where the capital flow is moving, not sitting in the LP. But like you're still running this risk, right? So who's responsible for that? Who do you bring up? If you're using a South Korean bridge that was founded by a team with South Korea and Hong Kong, and it was funded by a US VC, who are you collecting your money from in court if you took somebody to court for that? Right? Maybe the dev is Central European, and he's over in Slovenia or somewhere else. Who are you going to collect your money from?
I'm saying it has to be on chain. Like we have to.
But what does that mean?
The effort. I like the effort. What is his name? Alexis doing with the whole Borg thing. You make it legally binding. You bring it on chain. You
right. But okay. So anything that's a regulation or a law has to have an enforcement agency. Who's the enforcement agency? What's the jurisdiction?
The chain.
What does that mean?
You apply rules like when.
I understand. No, I understand.
Right?
I'm saying people adhere to rules and regulations because there is an enforcer of those rules and regulations.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like you have your typical chain, which is run by multiple DAOs, right? These DAOs have
where has DAOs ever worked?
No. I'm saying these DAOs have service companies, right? And you have on-chain rules. When the DAO service company doesn't deliver, it gets cut off by a vote automatically,
Okay.
enforced with OIDC, signing with Ethereum and all that kind of fun stuff. And then you build a federated, like we talked before, federated Web 2.5.
Oh, I heard the conversation. That's how come I came up to try to figure out. You're not talking about how the world works. So
I'm
okay.
exactly.
No. I'm trying to explain to you that this is an unenforceable entity. If
What
you're
is an
going,
unenforceable entity?
where is your jurisdiction? Where is your jurisdiction?
For what exactly?
For this, if somebody breaks your rules in this, if somebody does something illegal in this utopic design, who's the enforcer of the rules? Where does the person who's doing the bad thing show up to court to prove or disprove their guilt?
Not to overly simplify, but the global nature of this industry is part of the problem, right? Because there is in most of DeFi, it's a global market.
Yeah,
there's not global law. I mean,
yeah. So who is the jurisdiction? Okay, you gave me some compliments coming up. I appreciate that. Okay, so our challenge, since I'm actually working in the jurisdictional arbitrage sector, okay, and that's all this is jurisdictional arbitrage. Okay, so I'm in the jurisdictional arbitrage sector. Okay, so you, Cap, you own a Rembrandt. Now, I'm not going to dox you and tell people where you are, but you're in the US. Okay. So you own a Rembrandt, but your Rembrandt you bought from a New York auction house.
I might have lost Joe again.
Shit, the biggest thing while it's coming back up, already talked, is you got to get people to give a shit about security to begin with. It is blasphemy here within Web3 that people, if they do have a CTO, and that's it. I mean, no one gives a fuck about security to begin with. It's just
nobody cares about security.
Yeah,
nobody cares. Yeah. So if you're doing jurisdictional arbitrage, okay, if you're a criminal, you're looking for the loophole. If you have a global organization that doesn't have enforcement, and that's what I was trying to get to in my example. If Cap's a guy who owns a piece of art that he bought from a Brazilian billionaire out of Uruguay on a New York City stock or on a New York City auction house, and it's stored in a Singapore free port, okay, who is the jurisdiction? He didn't pay tax in New York. No.
Okay, let's
he didn't pay tax in New York. He didn't pay tax in Brazil. He didn't pay tax in Uruguay. He didn't pay tax in his home state. He's keeping the painting in Singapore so he doesn't have to pay tax. Singapore is the jurisdiction. Okay, so wherever the headquarters for this multi-global organization has to be willing to be the enforcer of the law. And then they they have to be funded in order to have the ability to enforce that law. And then they have to have a global agreement with all the other potential outliers that they can then extradite the criminal to their entity to enforce the law. Because otherwise, the criminals are going to go and sit in a non-extradition country. Because unlike Cap's painting, that you would have to go to Singapore to physically steal, with anything digital, I can sit in my Vietnamese hotel and steal it. And I use Vietnam because they don't have an extradition treaty with the US. Okay. I can go sit in a non-extradition country and I can do what I want to do. And what are you going to do about it?
Okay. But so from a design perspective, we have our ledger and multiple individuals or companies are operating on that ledger. So then we have some kind of organizational structure, typically some kind of DAO service company, which should be elected, which is currently doesn't seem to be really the case. It's like the founder and then some kind of weird dealings and whatever. Like that's where the problems already start. And we can start with the Ethereum Foundation and everything, basically. Like every DAO is like this.
Have you ever seen
Yeah. Are you gone again? He is.
Yeah, it looks like I lost him. Go ahead, and we'll see if he might have to drop down and come back up.
So you have your ledger, you have multiple DAOs, individual companies, whatever, and you elect a DAO service company, and then it comes down to the community. What kind of restriction the community wants the managing DAO part to be responsible to, and then you have companies who apply for it. You have like your really boring old school stock company like of operation. You have a board you elect. They have control over certain things. They can ask certain things and all this type of stuff. It's really boring. It's annoying. No one likes to do it, but we have to do it.
I agree. I think, and not to speak for Joe, but I think where, like, yes, all you said, yes, that's all true. But then when there is someone exploits that, I don't know if any of that matters because of this global nature of it. Like to your earlier point, you said there's got to be some accountability. Well, who? I think the root of this question is who enforces that accountability. Like it's
that's what it all comes back to. You can't have an organization with rules if there's nobody in place to enforce those rules. This is global digital. No. You're not understanding. Nobody cares about your community. Nobody cares about your corporation's rules. People follow laws because there's consequences that they do not want to engage with. You need to create consequences that are uncomfortable for people, or they will do whatever they want to do. It's called anarchy.
Like
No. You're not understanding that a DAO dream organization still needs to have a jurisdiction. So tell me your jurisdiction where you're going to put this.
The one the DAO service company is in.
Okay, so that's your jurisdiction then. All of this shit that's on top doesn't matter. So tell me the jurisdiction. Tell me the jurisdiction. Which country is this?
Votes on it.
So let's say it's
not
in
understanding my question.
Let's say it's in the
I
Cayman
don't care
Islands.
about an idea. I want to know how it's executed. So execute it for me. Where does this go?
Let's use the example. The DAO service company is based in let's say they're based in the Cayman Islands, just as an example. To give
okay, so the Caymans doesn't have enough enforcement agencies to do anything with us. This is how come we go to the Caymans. The entire purpose of us being in Bermuda or the Caymans or any of these entities is because they can't enforce it.
Let's walk through this architecture, right? You have your Kubernetes cluster, right? You have one Kubernetes cluster with 5 nodes or wherever, and that's one cluster.
But you're passing through. No, but you're passing through all of the actual things that matter. Let me explain to you jurisdiction, okay? We have a blockchain patent.
Jurisdictions.
No, you don't seem to understand what I'm saying to you, okay? So there's a thing called a PCT or a WIPO. That's a global patent, okay? That costs a lot of money. It costs a lot more money than a US patent, but a US patent costs a lot of money too, okay? Now, our patent works on the blockchain. So let me ask you a question about jurisdiction. Do I need to have a global patent?
Oh, I think that's where we disagree. I don't think patents should be that much of a thing as they currently are.
Cool. But that's not how the world works. That's not how the world works. So I'm talking about how the actual world works.
I make my stuff open source, and that's
open source and patents are different things. You can have a patent and have it open source. I don't think you understand what a patent is. So I'm asking you
what a patent is.
No, you don't. If you just told me you make your stuff open source, you just told me you make your stuff open source, therefore you don't believe in patents. Those two things have nothing to do. There's a ton of patents that are open source. You're not understanding my question. Okay? Who's the Bitcoin Foundation that you're dealing with for this multinational global organization? Who's making the decisions? Where is the court? Does that court have an enforcement arm? Meaning I can go into your country and take somebody out of it who just stole $300 million from Drift. Just explain that to me.
Gary, just to jump in real quick. Yeah, I mean, Joe, what Joe is saying is valid and it's very important. And to give a very real, very tangible example, there's ENS domain names, and ENS domain names is 100% open source. And ENS domain names made the core team. They sort of had an undersight, if you will, where they thought because the ENS domain names was 100% open source that they didn't need a patent. And what happened is that there is a for-profit, I think, American-based company that is a company, and I'll call them out. They're called Unstoppable Domains. And what the leadership of Unstoppable Domains did is that they patented Nick Johnson's open source technology and created this huge patent fight, this huge situation. We won't go into the history and the politics of that right now, but it's very, very interesting that the Unstoppable cited Nick Johnson and ENS domains, and that is open source technology. And even though it's open source technology, they patented it. And and so even if you create open source technology, you still have to patent your work. So let that be a lesson for everybody, that patents are important.
But they still lose. They still lose in court.
No, they don't lose because they don't lose because then this gets into Joe's other point of jurisdiction. Because in the jurisdictional issue, what happens is that Unstoppable domain names can now go to the court of the United States jurisdiction, and they can now fight the open source decentralized company, the open source decentralized technology inside a jurisdiction that is real and does exist, and doesn't care about decentralization.
That's just
right. But this is why it's important. We care. I mean, I care about decentralization.
But my
Wait. I know. Let me get you. I'm gonna hold on. Let me answer your patent trolling, because I care about decentralization. I'm a decentralization maxi. But what happens is that when the patent trolling comes into play, using jurisdictional powers, the patent trolling is able to block out the open source technology inside the jurisdiction of the United States. And they're able to do that through strong arming with money in the legal system, which then has very real and dangerous and negative implications on both open source and decentralized technology. And so even though we are the people in this room, well, it's a large part of the world that we shouldn't discount financially or in the numbers of people.
35% of the money, it's 50% of most validators. You have to care.
And so my thing that I want to give everybody in this room is this: if you are an open source maxi, if you are a decentralization maxi, if you are a Web3 maxi, it is very important that we sort of fight fire with fire, and that we care about jurisdictional issues. We care about legal groundwork like patents and all that stuff, because if we don't care about it, then those tools will be used against us. We can't pretend that jurisdictional issues don't exist, that Web 0, Web 1, Web 2 doesn't exist. We need to incorporate that into our Web 3. Otherwise, Web 3 will be incorporated into Web 1.
What I'm saying was these problems exist. I'm with you that yes, you make the patent open and they are still a patent troll. I'm completely with you on that front. The problem is, or not everyone has the money to register patents and fight it basically from day one. So you basically have to ignore this issue for a while until it pops up, and then you have to fight the whole it was already open.
But then you already lost the fight.
Works too. Or you just say, okay, we're switching to a multipolar world anyway. The US is an anti-consumer jurisdiction, so we cannot care about them. That's also a consequence you can take from it.
There's two major jurisdictions in this world. The first is America, the second is China. Everything else is just arbitrage.
I would argue three, and the third one's actually leading the way in legal sense. The European Union.
No, the European Union is way behind in terms of everything. The European Union has two options. because they haven't shown any leadership. They're either going to adopt the American system or they're going to adopt the Chinese system. There's two systems. There's the American system, there's the Chinese system, and everything else is arbitrage in the middle. And we can't ignore these issues because, again, the bottom line is this. Either Web3 wins because it uses Web 0, Web 1, Web 2, or what I'll call the traditional systems are going to consume Web3. It's either traditional systems consume Web3 or Web3 consumes the traditional systems, and we can't do that in a bubble or a silo.
I think we need to start with the setup here. Like, what is your setup you have in mind, like technology wise, to begin with? Like because it feels like to me you're all thinking in like a centralized sequential ledger. Meanwhile, I'm thinking about we're going to live in a world of millions of ledgers and have to figure out how to live with that.
No, I'm thinking of how law works. That's what I'm thinking about. There's two things that money cap.
Do you think there's
money? Those two things are the only things.
Do you think there's room for, like, will we ever see any sort of global law? Like I know I appreciate it's too hard. Like it's just look
at how trade deals work.
Mm-hmm.
We can't even agree on border security in a country. Blah 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 blah. Like there's no. Everybody has.
Cap, to your point, to your question, Cap. What I would like to say is this: if we get this right, when we look at Ethereum, if Ethereum, Ethereum has no rulers. If Ethereum works, if Ethereum is neutral, if United States can't topple Ethereum, if China can't topple Ethereum, if Ethereum becomes decentralized. Hold on. If Ethereum becomes neutral, censorship resistant, if everybody can use Ethereum. Now, if you build a browser on top of Ethereum, you can censor the browser. If anyone builds a company on top of Ethereum, you can censor that company. But if the base layer of the blockchain technology is global and is neutral and is censorship resistant, then that's going to be the closest that we have to world like laws and rules that we can then build a semi-decentralized future on top of it. But any of the companies that are built on top of it will still be subject to censorship, regulation, and jurisdiction.
When you talk about Ethereum, do you mean Ethereum the technology or Ether the chain?
A little bit of both, but it all comes down to the source of truth, right? So if you have a smart contract, if there's validators validating and building the security of the chain, and so you could have exploits in the smart contract, but minus any exploits in the smart contract, if you have a smart contract and then the chain that's validating that contract, and if that's neutral and censorship resistant, then that is the chain in the technology.
Okay, we're operating on different information. Like Ether is not censorship resistance by any means. Like they censored me on the Ethereum Foundation, censored me like crazy.
So, but that's a company. That's not the chain. Again.
But they are enforcing the rules on Ether, the chain mostly. So.
No, they're not. The rules are being enforced by validators, and validators have their own say.
But let's be real.
Centralized. Every company and every DAO is a semi-centralized organization that is in the circle. It's in the Venn diagram of the chain. The chain is not the same thing as the companies on top of it.
So I'm gonna just make it really simple. Okay. If you want your version of the world to happen, it doesn't happen with an idea.
Like,
no, it's not.
Okay. Tempo, etc. It's already happening.
Tempo is your example. So you go and you get Visa, MasterCard, and Stripe. And those are your overlords.
That's the tendency we're going through. Like
you're not understanding. Then what you're saying and what I'm saying are two different things. Because if you're trying to shift, so do you want to have a conversation about like tempo and stable coins and that kind of thing, or do you just not want to do that?
Yeah, if we have the base on what is actually happening, then I'm completely with you. Like, let's talk
Oh,
about
what's the
tempo, all this
base?
stuff.
What's the base?
So,
Tell me your
my
jurisdiction.
observation,
Just
my
tell me.
observation right
Tell me your
now is
jurisdiction.
that can I?
No. If we're going to start at the base,
It's
then we have to
Germany.
start where
Germany,
law.
Europe.
Okay, so
I'm
Germany's not. I'm not talking about your jurisdiction. I'm saying for your utopic design, where's your jurisdiction?
depending on
No. Tell me your jurisdiction.
validators of the permissioned ledger. So it
Where is the
where
court and the
Tempo,
enforcement
it's in the
agency?
USA. Gnosis, it's in Europe. I don't know.
You're
It
not.
depends on the
You're
chain.
not understanding my question. The thing you want to build, the thing you want to happen, has to have a place where the law is enforced. Where is that? What's the governing
For my personal things,
for your
Europe
build,
and
your
China.
dream build, your dream build? You want to put it in China? Okay.
Joe, I'm talking about a world where we have millions of chains and they bridge to each other, they entangle to each other.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
Depends on what chain you. It's already happening.
No, it's not going to happen.
Tempo, like
These are not. These are not. You're because there's a bunch of dead chains and then there's 20 chains that actually have capital. That doesn't mean no. Listen, now you're going to listen, okay? You're going to understand this, okay? Capital is what makes the whole thing go. We don't have to like that. That's how it is, okay? So everybody who's taken their money out of the system has gone and built different chains. They're going to sit over there and they're not going to go play in your sandbox. They went and built their own sandbox to play with each other. Okay. There's chains doing $6 trillion in RWAs monthly, and you've never heard their names, and you can't get to it because you don't have an invite. And they're doing it so they can play with each other in their own private sandbox.
Literally describing the problems I think we have to solve here.
That's never going to get solved, though. Why would? Okay, first of all, you can't put actual normal people money on a public chain. Can't do it. Don't want to do it.
Yeah, that's what I said. We probably have a mix of permissioned and open ledgers.
Okay. So the system has determined how it already is going to happen. You don't have the capital, the connections, or the jurisdiction to make it happen, and the laws don't align with how you want it to happen. But you're certain it's going to happen because you're looking for signal, and the signal you see reinforces the idea you have. But when you're interrogated on that idea, you can't actually get to your idea to the execution. You still haven't told me where the enforcement agency is. Where's the enforcement agency?
I told you, like, we have permissioned and permissionless ledger, and the permissionless, it's Ethereum. Probably
just tell me where the enforcement agency is, and I'll stop asking you this question, and I'll believe in your world.
The important stuff is happening on those permissioned chains.
Okay, I'm not trying to be a dick. None of that is a jurisdiction.
Joe, where is the difference between the W3C operating or any global some community BIS, whatever it is really, and this chain now?
They're not moving money.
What?
They're not moving money. Everything that happens in every piece of data in blockchain, every piece of data in blockchain is money. That's what makes it different. I can send money and data together. The standards you're talking about aren't the same thing. They may protect sites, they may protect pipelines, they may protect however you want to describe commerce that's happening online. I can also just send a stupid fucking email, a meme. On chain, most of the business that is happening is money. Okay.
Also, to answer your question, the W3C is centralized inside America. I know you want to. I know you want to get to it's a global organization, but W3C is centralized in America. And to the other point about those other blockchains, a federated blockchain is not a decentralized blockchain. It's
none of it is decentralized.
Well, a federated
50% of the validators are here in this country. No, I agree with you, but I'm just like this concept that there's this answer that nobody else has figured out. I'll go there with you. I like to dream big.
But it's already happening. Like
It's not already happening. You're looking for signal. You're looking for signal, and you're seeing what you want to see. Where is the capital? Where is the capital enforcement? Capital only goes where it can have laws enforced to protect it. Property rights is the reason why. No. Property rights is the reason why some capitalism works and most capitalism fails. Okay, you may not like these things.
Let's look at the reality. We have chains like we have Tempo, we have Solana, we have Ethereum.
What does any of that have to do?
They're all enforced by a fucking foundation.
No, they're not. They're not enforced by the fucking foundation. They're enforced by the law. You do a crime. You do a crime. You go to jail.
There's a separation what you're saying there, because Joe, I mean, just real quick, Joe, because I want to ask you this. I mean, there's a difference between Tempo or Handshake or some of these others that are federated, which is governed by a group of other organizations, which are the overseers, and something like Ethereum,
like Tempo,
which is wait, hold on, and Ethereum, which is validated by the validators. And so if somebody breaks the law in a federated blockchain, the organizations that are federating it can be attacked via the jurisdiction. But something Ethereum, if someone breaks the law, then the jurisdiction can't attack Ethereum. They can try attacking the validators, which are, we can argue are decentralized. But if someone breaks the law on Ethereum, then they have to find the actual attacker or someone that was criminally responsible. So there's a difference between a federated blockchain of which you can the jurisdiction can attack the federating organizations, and Ethereum, which is decentralized. And again, the rails are decentralized, the rails are neutral. People can build on Ethereum, but then when the jurisdiction needs to go after someone, they're not going
where are the validators though?
Right,
so I'm not even talking about the location. I'm not talking about the location, okay? Let's go check which central places most of these validators are connected to.
Yeah, but so this has been done with FinCEN.
I know, because we have to solve for these things. But that's what I'm trying to get back to with
FinCEN,
him. Right.
So I'm going on a little bit of a tangent with you. That Ethereum itself is decentralized enough that people can build on top of it, and if the jurisdiction comes after Ethereum, what they actually have to do is come after the validators, and FinCEN has come after the validators to tell the validators that they have to censor transactions and addresses.
Exactly.
And that the majority of validators have resisted FinCEN censorship, and so FinCEN at this point, because the validators are decentralized enough around the world, kind of to Philip's point. So I'm just getting at the rails, right? The technology of the rails that people can build on can, with Ethereum specifically, are decentralized enough that people can build on that. But to your point, people building on that still have to deal with the jurisdictional issue because they themselves can't be decentralized.
Yes. And people may not want to build on Ethereum. There's a reason why.
Point.
There's a reason. No, your point is some other thing where you can't decide which organization is actually going to enforce the rules of your utopia.
We have Ether. The cypherpunk. Vitalik gets everything now. No stable coins, whatever. We have this high entropy chaos environment where everyone can do whatever they want. Perfect, amazing, great. And then we have the Tempos, we have the Deutsche Bank or whatever they are doing, Gnosis and all these, or not, Gnosis not, but all these permissioned federated chains, ledgers, what you want. And then we bridge them together, reroute the package across all these manifolds. That design seems to be the driving force right now in the industry.
Okay, and what's your point? Because Tempo.
There's no point. That's
okay,
just
but
it.
Tempo.
Think about holding people accountable.
No. But see, MasterCard, Visa, Tempo, Stripe. Okay, those all have jurisdictions they answer to. You don't have to go after the validators if the chain is being run by a multinational corporation in federation with other multinational corporations.
So what's the problem?
The problem is that what you're describing with the DAOs and the this and the that, All of them are going to have a jurisdiction. So where's the jurisdiction?
Yeah, whatever you pick, whatever.
That's not how the. Okay, whatever we pick. All right, Cap, I'm gonna hand it back to you. So I can
look,
because
I will say this: I really do appreciate the passionate conversation this morning, and I think it brings up. I mean, I'm not trying to be cheesy when I say this. Like we talk about crypto, blockchain tech, pushing often talking about pushing the financial sector forward, or TradFi coming on chain. I think the other, like, the kind of my aha moment this morning, not necessarily aha, because it's not that I haven't thought about this before, but really driving home that this industry, blockchain tech, crypto, whatever you want to call it, it's bringing up real challenges, issues far beyond finance, far beyond crypto. This is when you talk about jurisdiction and laws and regulation, like anything global is incredibly challenging. And I think often here we just say, oh, it is what it is. And so we'll, a lot of people will use a VPN, or like we just deal with it. But I think at scale, and you start thinking about real world, it's not just, hey, can I access this thing because I live here? It's if something goes awry, whether it's something's exploited or the developer has malicious intent, it's some really tough questions, and I don't know the answers. We're not going to come up with the answers, and there probably is not just one, but in a roundabout way, it's this industry, I think, is maybe bringing some of these challenges to the top and pulling it all the way back to, or maybe try to make the connection to AI. Like this, and maybe that's easier from a jurisdictional standpoint, but with not just using AI to exploit crypto contracts, but to do harm, to do illegal things. Is it as simple as saying, oh, well, where's the LLM headquartered? I don't know if it's that simple. And related to this topic this morning somewhat is, I just saw Mayhem shared this. Polymarket just came out and they're cracking down on VPN users as legal pressure intensifies in dozens of countries. So we talk about jurisdictional challenges or this, whether it's a challenge or problem, it is what it is. Polymarket is, it's had tremendous growth, tremendous success. And the reality is you're not supposed to be able to use it in the US, but yet how much of their volume, how much of their success is based off of users living in the US accessing their platform by way of a VPN.
So with a financial crime like you're describing, you're going to have three parties. You're going to have the perpetrators, the victims, and the origin of the robbery, the theft, the exploit. Those are going to be three jurisdictions that you're going to deal with. In between those, you may have bridges, off ramps for the money. Those then become other sectors that they go and look at. At some point, what they're going to try to do is take the money. That's the first thing, is secure the money. Not secure the criminal, secure the money. Secure the money, okay? So if you're a smart criminal, you're going to try to push that money through places that most of FinCEN or Interpol's financial, I forget the acronym for that, can't touch. Okay, but that's difficult. Okay, then if you're the criminal, if you're in North Korea, you're safe. Nobody's extraditing you from there. Safe in a different way, right? It's relative. But you're definitely not going to get brought to a U.S. Jurisdiction and held at trial. If you're a victim and you're not in the U.S. or one of their buddies, you're screwed. You're out on the outside. Especially if it's a U.S. agency that captured the capital, you're never getting that back. So this is the issue. This is the exploit. This is the arbitrage that gets played out. It's a loophole.
I don't understand your problem of understanding this architecture of, we have the tempos, etc. of the world. We have.
You keep using tempo. I don't think you know what tempo is. You
It's the
you keep
federated
using.
ledger, like
I
it's the
understand, but
Visa and Mastercard,
what
whatever.
does Tempo, which has a ton of U.S. companies that own it, have to? The U.S. is its
Because
jurisdiction.
it's literally solving your jurisdiction problem.
It's not
That's
solving my
the
jurisdiction
USA.
problems. It's literally in the U.S. This is the
Yeah,
jurisdiction.
that's what
You
I'm
make a
saying.
no law, you're in the U.S. You don't want to have the
Yeah.
U.S. You said U.S.
So
sucks. Just leave them out. They're bad
they bridge
operators.
to and they bridge
You
to
said that
other
from
ledgers,
Germany. There's
which
no.
are. You're back.
Go ahead.
You've gone again. I guess.
He's good.
Or
He's there. Go
Joe?
ahead.
I'm here.
Okay. I don't understand. Like you have the ledger, like Tempo in the USA. Yes, I agree. Then you have other companies that do it in Europe or Germany, whatever. You do other companies or collection of companies that do it in China and in Vietnam, whatever, and they bridge to each other in some kind of capacity and legal way. So what's the problem with that?
I don't think we're describing the same thing.
Yeah, what are you describing then?
Oh, I'm responding to you talking about this whole little world, and then there's DAOs, and then this one deals with that one, and yeah. Who
Yeah, those federated
governs?
companies are a DAO.
You're
They can
mixing
form
a
a
lot
DAO.
of words together that actually don't go together. Okay?
Why not?
Because the blockchains like Tempo don't have shit to do with anything. They're being run by billion-dollar corporations.
But it's still
Okay?
just people at the end of the day.
I understand, but you don't seem to get that jurisdiction is the very jurisdiction that 15 minutes ago when we started this, you said, don't want to deal with them. Don't want to deal with the US, leave them out.
I'm saying that's the trend
What?
I'm seeing, observing, and that makes sense from a legal perspective and from a technological decentralization perspective as
That's
well.
not decentralization. Why is that
not?
decentralization? Maybe
You
we
have
should define what
millions of-
decentralization actually means.
You have millions of blockchains, which seems to be the trend we're going to, because block space is cheap and you can get a couple of companies together to trust you.
First of all, you understand that blockchain was basically written about in 92. Blockchains have been around. IBM's been using blockchains for decades. This isn't new shit. This is old shit. Okay, this isn't new. So you're talking to me like this is something new that's happening when you found out about it. Everything got new when I found out about it. I've known about this shit for decades. So I'm trying to figure out what you think you're describing. That's what I'm trying to figure out.
We're going in. So we have built this ledger technology, right? And we have thought this
Not new technology. Let's not talk about it like it's new. Satellites in the sky that give me internet is new. Rockets that land back on Earth, pretty new. Okay. Ledgers that were written about in the early 80s and were first deployed in the early 90s and are now getting closer to being 40 years old than 4 years old, not new. So keep going.
What point are you making? Like what's
I'm saying you don't seem to actually understand what you're trying to say. And you're talking to me about centralized companies who have their own ecosystem so they can process payments for people in central locations and then enforce the law against them. And then in your head, that somehow is one of 999,999 other blockchains, which are all going to be proliferating the world.
Yeah.
But you haven't really explained why that would need to be the case.
Because we cannot scale a single chain.
What do you mean we can't scale it? Do you think that block space, or what is the reason we can't scale a single chain?
So first of all, I think block space is not valuable, and that's a misconception in this industry. It's like a commodity.
What is the reason you can't scale a chain?
Because
what's the reason?
Fundamentally, our world is quantum physics, and we cannot put it down on one sequential ledger.
No. It's very simple. Very simple. Okay. Most people who are here using the tech don't know how to explain the tech to somebody who they need to sell the tech to. So the person on the other side who has to make a decision on whether or not to use that tech has absolutely no reason to use the tech because they don't understand what the fuck the tech is because the person explaining the tech to them doesn't understand what the fucking tech is either. So this whole entire period, what we've had is we've had a bunch of shit information going into the ears of the people who would actually use the technology. And the only way that this technology ever gets spoken about, but to outside people, is either through scam or scam president or terrible fucking founder of XYZ is now in prison for doing XYZ terrible stuff. So North Korea, the guy who's running this country, or bad operators who are billionaires. That's what people get to hear outside. Why would you use that? Why would you ever use that? And then when you have somebody who's a quote unquote consultant who you're paying $5,000 an hour to, you do care though, because you want to scale it. So then you have somebody who you're paying as a consultant and you show up and you say to them, hey, this is really a better way to manage your logistics supply side. They say, well, what's that? And you use that dirty word called blockchain. And they go, get the fuck out of my office. That's insane. Have you not read this, or this? So there's a messaging problem. Okay. But you're going back to Tempo, Stripe, here. I don't understand how that is decentralization to you.
We went all across, very interesting. But
no, because I was listening to you and I'm trying to understand how your world lines up.
I don't know how deep you are in the tech, but we have.
I'm not in the tech at all. I have absolutely nothing. I told you I had patents in the tech. You told me you don't believe in patents.
Oh, okay.
I'm totally not in the tech at all. I don't know shit about this technology. I'm stupid.
Okay. So then we have this open source technology, this Ethereum. We have
again, you're using open source incorrectly.
Yeah, but we have all these clients, and we have this Ether as a research chain where we experimented basically, and we found out a lot of things don't work because we ignored the sociology here. Cool, all good. We can fix that. So, and also we have figured out. We thought initially we can do this world computer one chain to put it all on. Turns out there's a physical limit to it. This trilemma thing is actually real. It's a real thing because fundamentally,
you guys had to do an experiment to figure that out.
Fundamentally, we're not working based on Newton physics. We're working on quantum physics, and that's the problem here. That we're trying. The people looking at it as a Newton world, as you have one singular chain, sequential, and you put everything on it. Doesn't work. It's a physics problem. You need multiple chains. Already happening because naturally people figured out, oh my God, Ether is full. Now I need to make a new chain, be it based rollup. Well, that's a problem for itself. But so you have multiple chains, Solana, Ether, whatever. And now they bridge to each other, and these bridges are huge issues. And we have these jurisdiction issues on these open chains. But I already see the market solving that with chains like Tempo, etc. And now we have to figure out how do we bridge them in a quantum physics compliant way, if you want to say it so, and in a way that is, yes, jurisdictional, good, and gives people the protections they need. So that, for example, also one protection could be that we need manifolds to be able to collapse in itself and redistribute their tokens when they collapse. But yeah, all these questions, I'm with you. We need to ask them ourselves and go deep into this. It's a lot.
Yeah, it is a lot. And I think, unfortunately, probably more questions than answers. It's just it's one thing to decentralize the tech. It's another thing to enforce laws and this jurisdictional challenge, or you may look at it as a jurisdictional arbitrage, as Joe mentioned earlier. I don't want to like take the out and just say it is what it is, but I probably tend to agree that it's not the idea of having some sort of global agreed upon law that governs patents and regulations, it's probably a pipe dream. Like, it probably just it's too, we can't agree on much lower stake stuff to think that this would be reality. But we've ran a little long this morning. I do want to thank Philip and Joe and Gary and Drew and everyone who joined us today, both whether on stage or in the chat. I said it earlier, like, for every exploiter or bad actor or hack in the space, it does bring back my faith and gets me excited to see the good ones, the good guys, the good gals, the white hats, those that are doing good for the greater good. And there's a lot of them here. We could use more, but there's a lot of them here. And for the challenges that we have when it comes to security and safety moving forward. I mean, I was trying to rewind my brain how we even got on this law enforcement. I guess, like, how do we hold the bad actors accountable? And that too is easier said than done. Now, if it's straightforward, they're in the U.S. It was a U.S. based, the victim and the bad actor were both in the U.S. It's a U.S. based protocol. That's pretty straightforward. But it's just it's not always that straightforward. It's not always that black and white. And it's very much so we're moving and operating in a gray area. And I do think some of this discussion today is far beyond just crypto and blockchain tech. It's just, the reality is that a lot of blockchain tech, a lot of crypto, it is global in nature, from tokens to clubs like the Bored Ape Yacht Club, to technology, to chains like Ethereum. And we the reality is, like, back and forth as the conversation was this morning, we probably the space at large probably should be having these sort of conversations more often, and at least thinking about some of these challenges that, while today may be one-offs, it just, like, I hope there's not some run, like I think it was Drew earlier said, Claude Mythos might do more good than harm. And some say, the fear mongering that Anthropic is doing is really to drive market share, to drive attention, and regulation to where they would benefit from. Make the get the regulation and then pull the ladder up and make it a lot harder for startups to come and compete with them. It's a really interesting time to be alive, and I know while we got a little technical on many things today, from smart contract protocol exploits to jurisdictional arbitrage, I hope the conversation at least made you think today. I hope you took something out of it. And if you're new here, if you just found us during the back and forth today, we do go live every Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. Eastern time here on Coffee. Usually it's a 2-hour show. The first hour of the day, often news of the day, trending topics, market update. And then often, at 9 o'clock, we'll bring on a special guest or a subject matter expert on often even the impromptu on the topic we're talking about. We do have a few special guests lined up this week. We'll be running back Coffee with Captain on Friday. Appreciate Law of the Solve for cueing today's conversation about jelly and jam and rhubarb pie. On a lighter note, to wrap things up, I did post this in the chat. I pinned it up top. If anyone wants a fun competition, free to enter. There's no charges. It's a World Cup bracket battle. We're going to be hosting a Coffee with Captain one on Underdog. No promises or guarantees on prizes. At minimum, I'll say this, we'll do the winner of the bracket will get a Coffee with Captain, claw pool, courtesy of Beezy. At minimum, we may see if we can get the prize pool juiced up a little more. Maybe we do first, second, third. It's pretty simple. The link to join the Coffee with Captain, bracket is pinned up top all the way to the left. And you do need to create an Underdog account. Create it with that link. It helps out a little bit. But there's no obligation to load your account with any funds, or this is free to play. There's no fee for the bracket battle. It's basically you choose winners who advances from the group stage. So you're dragging and dropping first, second, third, and fourth. First and second automatically advance, and then the next one is you're choosing of the 12 third place teams who are the 8 that advance. So it's first and second in each group, plus 8 of the 12 third place teams will advance to the bracket stage, and then you basically fill out the bracket. You can see the points you get. In the first round, you get 1 point per correct team advancing, and then you get 2 bonus points if you get a perfect group. Then in the knockout stage, the points per correct pick get higher each round. First round of 32, it's 2 points per correct pick. If you guess the champion right, the finals, it's 32 points, and then whoever has the most points at the end of the World Cup ends up winning. So again, it's all in good fun. There's no fee to enter. We'll do a claw pull, but it's more just like we'll talk a little bit about that. We're not going to go deep dive on the World Cup every day, but usually in the cold open, the first 5-10 minutes of the show, we'll talk. Like tomorrow morning, we'll talk a little bit briefly about the NBA Finals and the Spurs winning Game 3 tonight. During the World Cup, we'll at least talk about some of the highlights. So it'll be a fun way to follow along and have a little vested stake in the World Cup this year and in that cold open conversation. The other thing I pinned up top, not exactly related, but a little bit. I did enjoy the interview we had with the CTO of Concordium on Friday. That space, that recording is pinned up top. You can also find our recordings on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts, Apple and Spotify most primarily. But the Concordium helping solve a little bit on the identity layer, the accountability layer. In particular, what we talked about mostly on Friday was AI agent accountability. If something goes wrong, how do you hold the agent accountable? Well, it's hard today, even if they're registered with the ERC 8004, 4004, 8000, whatever. Then what? Then what? If there's no human attached to it, if there's no organization attached to it, then you're not. What are you doing? Like attempting to shut the agent down? Again, even how do you do that? So this identity layer, this accountability layer behind the agent. Well, not exactly what we were talking about this morning. This idea of accountability and in crypto, in tech, in AI, I think is one that it's a conversation that probably should be talked about more frequently. And I appreciate those who are having the conversation. I appreciate those who are attempting to build solutions for this. And it's what a time to be live. It's going to be interesting. It's hopefully we're not talking about more exploits, but when it comes to this sort of stuff, it's very difficult challenges to fully solve, and ones that I don't know what the answer is. But proactive conversations are probably better than only thinking or talking about this stuff following when something goes wrong, when someone gets exploited, when someone does wrong, and then scram and figure out how we hold them accountable. So truly, again, appreciate everyone who joined us today. Appreciate the healthy back and forth and the passion, because that's one thing that I think everyone that spoke today shares is a real passion for this space. And whether you lean on your pro centralization or you're a decentralized maxi as Gary describes himself, or somewhere in between, I think most of us here, if you're tuning into Coffee Academy, your odds are you're passionate about blockchain technology, crypto tech, NFTs, all the above. And these sort of conversations should happen more often in the space at large. So thank you to everyone who participated. Thanks for everyone who was here. Shout out once again to NFT Drew and Hans for the big Pingo tip over there on Abstract. We'll be back tomorrow, 8 a.m. Eastern time. That link is also up top. I'll play us out here in a second. And if you've not yet hit the reminder for tomorrow's show, you can find that up top, as well as the recording from Friday's show that I was mentioning. And until then, till tomorrow at 8, hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful day, everyone.